My sister's complaint ended my scholarship and exposed my coach's drug scheme. Now I'm planning revenge that could ruin her new life. I'm Ethan, a 19-year-old guy, and my 16-year-old sister Sophie absolutely wrecked everything our family had worked for over the last decade, and I don't think I'll ever forgive her for what she did. Let me start with some background. Our family has participated in competitive swimming for as long as I can remember. My father, Martin, 52, was a semi-professional swimmer in college until suffering a shoulder injury that halted his career. My mother, Clara, 49, worked as a swim instructor at the local community center for 15 years before taking on full-time responsibility for my career. They gave everything they had to make me successful. I started swimming competitively when I was 8 years old. By the age of 12, I was breaking area records. At 14, I qualified for the Junior Nationals. Last year, I was accepted by 3 Division I universities on full scholarships. I chose Northwestern because they have one of the greatest aquatic programs in the country, as well as an excellent alumni network in sports management. Sophie began swimming around the same time I did, but she never possessed the same natural skill. She was good enough for varsity at our high school, but she wasn't scholarship material. Our parents tried to encourage her, but they recognized where her true potential was. They dedicated the majority of their time and resources to my training, coaching, equipment, and competition-related travel expenses. Sophie was able to participate in local meets and had access to the same trainers, but the emphasis was obviously on my professional development. The problem with competitive swimming is that it's more than simply being fast in the water. There's an entire culture surrounding it, particularly at the elite level. The training is tough. The pressure is unrelenting, and you must make difficult choices about how far you are willing to go to win. Ryan Carter, my 41-year-old male coach, understood this better than anyone. He'd been coaching Olympic swimmers for almost 20 years, so he knew what it takes to compete at the greatest level. Ryan believed that mental toughness was equally vital to physical conditioning. He would put us through activities designed to tear down our psychological boundaries. This sometimes entailed training in painful conditions. Sometimes it meant going beyond what we thought were our boundaries. And sometimes it required coping with uncomfortable situations. Ryan began working more closely with me around 2 years ago on what he called advanced conditioning techniques. These weren't just about swimming faster or growing strength. They were about creating the mental toughness that distinguishes excellent swimmers from great ones. The training intensified, but the benefits were undeniable. My times dropped substantially, and college scouts took note. Sophie was also in Ryan's program, but she trained alongside the other high school swimmers. She did not engage in the advanced conditioning sessions since Ryan stated that she was not prepared for that level of training. My parents agreed with this evaluation, as did I. Sophie had always been more sensitive than me, and advanced training necessitated a level of mental toughness that I was not sure she possessed. The problem began approximately 6 months ago. Sophie started asking questions regarding my training sessions with Ryan. She wanted to know why I was staying late after normal practice, why I went to his house on weekends for extra coaching, and why she wasn't invited to these sessions. I tried to explain that the training was specifically tailored for swimmers of my level, but she persisted. My parents and Sophie had multiple conversations about this. They emphasized that different swimmers require different forms of coaching, and Ryan's advanced program was only for individuals competing on a national level. Sophie appeared to accept the explanation, but I could tell she was still upset by it. Things worsened when Sophie started dating Liam, a 17-year-old male from her chemistry class. Liam was not a swimmer and held strong views about competitive sports. He kept telling Sophie that our family relationships were problematic, that our parents played favorites, and that my secret training sessions with Ryan were suspect. Liam began showing up at our swim events and asking pointed questions about the program. He would make comments about how much time I spent alone with Ryan, so he began researching Ryan's background online. He discovered that Ryan had been involved in some sort of scandal at his last coaching post, though the specifics were never revealed, and no charges were ever filed. Sophie started spending more time with Liam and less time in the pool. She began missing practices and turning up late for team meetings. When my parents challenged her about her waning dedication, she accused them of only being concerned about my achievement. She claimed they had never supported her swimming career in the same way they had mine, and they were unaware of what was really going on in Ryan's program. The problem came to a head 3 weeks ago. Sophie had been acting strangely for some days, missing family dinners and spending the majority of her time in her room or out with Liam. My parents were becoming dissatisfied with her attitude, and there had been frequent disagreements regarding her responsibilities to the team. On a Tuesday evening, I returned home from one of my advanced training sessions with Ryan. These sessions typically lasted 3 hours and included intense physical fitness, mental preparation exercises, and technical development. I was exhausted and went directly to my room to shower and prepare for bed. Around an hour later, I heard shouts from downstairs. Sophie was disputing with our parents about something, and her voice became increasingly aggressive. I could hear my mother attempting to calm her down, but Sophie insisted that she couldn't keep quiet any longer and that someone needed to know the truth. I walked downstairs to see what was going on. Sophie was standing in the living room, holding her phone, while my parents tried to persuade her to sit down and chat calmly. When she saw me, she pointed at me and began ranting about how I was a victim and that our parents were allowing something terrible to happen. My father asked Sophie what she was talking about, and she said that she had been documenting things for weeks. She took out her phone and showed them photographs of text messages between Ryan and me. The texts were about training schedules and technique adjustments, but Sophie saw them as evidence of something wrong. She also had images of Ryan's house, which she had snapped while following me there for weekend training sessions. She claimed that the fact that I was traveling to his house alone was evidence that something was wrong, despite the fact that these sessions were common procedure for competitive swimmers and that our parents were well aware of them. My mother tried to explain that Sophie was misinterpreting the issue, but Sophie insisted she had already made up her mind. She informed us that she had spoken with someone from the State Athletic Commission and had filed a formal complaint against Ryan's coaching practices and the framework of his training program. At this moment, my father lost his fury and warned Sophie that she was risking my entire future because of her jealousy and misunderstanding. He claimed she was being duped by Liam, who didn't understand competitive swimming and was flooding her mind with questionable thoughts. Sophie stated that she didn't care about my swimming career if it meant remaining silent about what she thought was going on. She claimed she had an obligation to speak out, regardless of the implications for me or our family. The next morning, I awoke to see my parents loading my possessions into luggage. They informed me that Sophie had carried out her threat, and that Ryan's initiative would be investigated. They told me I needed to go reside with my Uncle Robert, a 47-year-old male, in another state until the problem was settled. My mother was crying as she helped me pack. She kept repeating that Sophie had wrecked all we had worked for, and that my college scholarship would most likely be cancelled once the probe became public. My father was mainly silent, but I could tell he was angry. They drove me to the airport on the same day. Before I departed, my father informed me that Sophie was no longer welcome in their home and that they were investigating legal alternatives to deal with the damage she had done to my reputation and profession. I've been staying with my uncle for the past 3 weeks. He's been helpful, but he doesn't understand competitive swimming, so it's difficult to express the whole extent of what Sophie has done. My college coach contacted last week to let me know that Northwestern is reconsidering my scholarship offer awaiting the conclusion of the investigation. Ryan's program has been temporarily suspended, and the scandal has impacted the college prospects of numerous other swimmers on our team. The local swimming community is divided, with some backing Ryan and others believing that Sophie was correct to speak up. My parents have been keeping me informed on the situation back home. Sophie appears to continue live with Liam's family and has been cooperating with investigators. She has given them access to all of her documents and lengthy remarks about her issues with Ryan's coaching practices. What upsets me the most about this whole affair is that Sophie never approached me directly with her concerns. If she had any questions about my training or suspected something inappropriate was going on, she could have asked me. Instead, she acted behind everyone's back, making assumptions based on inadequate facts. I understand that she may have felt excluded or jealous of the attention I was receiving, but damaging my profession and our family's reputation was not the appropriate way to deal with those sentiments. Our parents made significant sacrifices to support my swimming, and Sophie understood how important it was to all of us. Now I'm in limbo, unsure whether I'll be able to return to competitive swimming or if my college ambitions are utterly shattered. My relationship with Sophie is probably gone, and my parents are considering disowning her totally. I'm just not sure how she could do this to our family. We've always been close, and I believed she supported my swimming career even if she wasn't as successful herself. Discovering that she's been surreptitiously documenting events and constructing a case against Ryan seems like a betrayal. Has anyone else experienced a family member destroying their job or future? I'm not sure how to proceed from here, or if there is any way to undo the harm that has been done. Update 1. I never imagined I'd be back here so soon, but things have become far worse than I anticipated. Sophie's inquiry has entirely blown out of hand, and new information is emerging that I did not expect. First, let me update you on what happened shortly following my first article. I was still staying with my Uncle Robert when the State Athletic Commission finished its preliminary inquiry of Ryan's coaching program. They interviewed Sophie and several other swimmers from our squad, as well as reviewing all of the paperwork she submitted. What they discovered appeared to be far more problematic than simply inadequate teaching practices. The investigators determined that Ryan had been giving numerous swimmers, including myself, substances that were not properly disclosed to our parents or the athletic commission. These weren't just protein powders or typical sports nutrition items. They were forbidden substances in competitive swimming. Ryan had described these as cutting-edge recovery supplements that would allow us to train harder and recover faster. He claimed they were entirely legal and that several Olympic swimmers used identical products. He made us pledge not to discuss the supplements with our parents or other coaches, since he claimed the compositions were unique and he didn't want other programs to mimic his methods. I'd been taking these vitamins for over 18 months without questioning them. Ryan would deliver them to me during our private training sessions, and I absolutely trusted his knowledge. The vitamins appeared to be effective because my performance improved considerably throughout this time, and I felt more energized and focused while training. When the investigators evaluated samples of these supplements, they discovered many compounds banned by both the NCAA and international swimming bodies. Some of these chemicals can cause major health concerns with long-term usage, and all would have resulted in instant exclusion from competition if discovered during drug testing. The hardest aspect was that I had no notion I was using prohibited substances. Ryan had convinced me that everything he was providing was legal and safe. When the investigators described what was in the supplements, I knew that my better performance over the previous year and a half was primarily attributable to performance-enhancing medications. This means that every record I established, every scholarship offer I received, and every accomplishment I achieved during this time was tainted by chemicals I had no idea I was using. The NCAA promptly terminated my eligibility for collegiate swimming, and Northwestern formally rescinded its scholarship offer. But that isn't the worst aspect about this upgrade. 3 days after the supplement disclosure, Liam called me directly. I was astonished to hear from him because we had never gotten along, and I imagined he was calling to brag about Sophie being proven correct. Instead, Liam told me something that completely transformed my perspective on the entire scenario. He claimed that Sophie had not actually launched the probe into Ryan's program. According to Liam, Sophie told him months ago that she was concerned about my training but was scared to say anything since she didn't want to jeopardize my profession or upset our parents. Liam claimed he was the one who urged Sophie to chronicle what she was seeing, and he was the one who looked into Ryan's background and discovered the previous controversy at his former coaching post. More importantly, Liam was the one to call the state sports commission and file the original complaint. Sophie apparently urged Liam not to submit the complaint, but Liam told her that he couldn't stand by and watch what he thought was happening to me. He explained that Sophie was divided between wanting to protect me and not wanting to ruin my swimming career, so Liam made the decision for her. When Liam filed the complaint, he utilized Sophie's documentation and submitted it in her name because he believed the complaint would be taken more seriously if it came from a family member rather than Sophie's boyfriend, who was not a swimmer. Sophie had reluctantly agreed to his proposal, but Liam said she never intended to be the public face of the complaint. She had hoped that the inquiry would be completed quietly, and that if Ryan was exonerated of guilt, the whole matter would be shelved without any impact on my career. This discovery significantly impacted my perspective on Sophie's actions. She hadn't betrayed our family out of envy or hate. Rather, she was trying to protect me while simultaneously preserving my swimming career. Liam had twisted the circumstances so that it appeared Sophie was leading the probe. I immediately called Sophie to confront her with what Liam had told me. We hadn't spoken since the night she argued with our parents, and I wasn't sure if she'd answer my call. When she responded, she began crying before I could say anything. Sophie verified Liam's version of events. She stated that she had been concerned about my training for months, particularly after noticing changes in my behavior and physical appearance that she suspected were due to the supplements Ryan was providing me. She had tried to raise her concerns with our parents, but they disregarded them as envy. She told me she never wanted to file a complaint against Ryan, but Liam persuaded her that I was in danger and that someone needed to step in. When Liam filed the complaint in her name, Sophie felt compelled to publicly support it, despite her fear of the implications for our family. Sophie frequently apologized for not contacting me directly with her worries. She stated she was terrified I wouldn't trust her, and she was concerned Ryan had persuaded me to keep secrets from our family. She stated that she had no intention of making the probe public or affecting my scholarship. After speaking with Sophie, I realized that our parents had responded to the incident without fully knowing the circumstances. They imagined Sophie was acting out of jealousy and spite, while in fact she was attempting to shield me from something she truly believed was dangerous. I called my folks to tell them about my conversation with Liam and Sophie. My father was angry with Liam for manipulating the issue, but my mother was curious as to why Sophie had not felt safe approaching them with her concerns. My parents drove to Liam's house the same day to confront Sophie and hear her side of the tale. According to Sophie, they had a lengthy talk during which she expressed how alienated she had felt from our family and how concerned she had been about my training with Ryan. My mother stated that they had been so preoccupied with my swimming career that they had failed to address Sophie's worries or make her feel as if her thoughts were valued. My father said that they had ignored Sophie's concerns too quickly and that they should have examined them instead of presuming she was acting out of envy. Sophie agreed to return home, but the harm to our family bonds had already occurred. The investigation revealed that Ryan had been administering prohibited chemicals to many swimmers without their knowledge, and several families were now dealing with the fallout from their children's tainted achievements. The local swimming community was in disarray. Parents were outraged by the supplements, swimmers were distraught by their destroyed careers, and there were suspicions that Ryan could face criminal charges for giving illegal chemicals to youngsters without sufficient medical supervision. My personal situation remained unaltered. Even though I realized Sophie was trying to protect me, my swimming career was over. The pills had irreversibly tarnished my eligibility for college competition, forcing me to take a completely new road forward. The most difficult thing was recognizing that my better performance over the previous year and a half was not the result of my own hard effort and inherent skill. I had been unintentionally cheating, and whatever accomplishment I was proud of during that time was practically pointless. Sophie and I were gradually mending our relationship, but things with our parents remained tricky. They were torn between guilt about disregarding Sophie's worries and fury over the demise of my swimming career. Our family relations had been utterly upended, and neither of us knew how to proceed. The inquiry was still underway, and there were speculations that Ryan could face more serious charges. Several other families were contemplating legal action, and the State Sports Commission was investigating all of Ryan's former swimmers to establish the scope of the supplement scheme. I was still staying with my uncle while we discussed our future moves, but I knew I would eventually have to come home and confront the reality of my predicament. My aspirations of swimming in college were shattered, and I needed to reassess my entire future. Update 2. The matter has taken another dramatic turn, and I'm not sure our family will ever recover from what we've discovered over the last month and a half. The examination into Ryan's teaching program has revealed details that go much beyond the supplement issue I mentioned in my previous post. After the illicit chemicals were discovered, the State Athletic Commission broadened their inquiry to include Ryan's whole coaching career and business dealings. What they discovered stunned everyone in our swimming community and had legal ramifications that none of us anticipated. Ryan had been running what authorities describe as a systematic fraud scam involving many swimmers and their families for the past 5 years. The pills were only one component of a much wider scheme that included forged training records, manipulated competition results, and financial fraud. Ryan had been charging families a premium for his advanced coaching program, saying that he had connections with Olympic training facilities and college scouts who would promise athletic scholarships to swimmers who exceeded specific performance thresholds. He provided families with elaborate training plans and progress reports that made it appear that their children were making outstanding development. What families didn't realize was that Ryan was changing training data and competition statistics to make swimmers appear more successful than they were. He would report phony times to college scouts, make fake training videos of swimmers performing better than they could, and even bribe officials at smaller contests to record inaccurate results. The illegal substances were part of this scam because they allowed swimmers to briefly achieve the performance levels Ryan claimed they had attained naturally. When swimmers raced at higher-level competitions where drug testing was more common, Ryan would modify their supplement regimens or find ways to escape testing entirely. My parents had paid Ryan more than $40,000 for my advanced coaching program over the previous 3 years. This included training fees, competition travel expenditures, and equipment payments, all of which Ryan said were required for high-level training. Other families had paid comparable amounts, and detectives estimate Ryan received more than $500,000 from families in our region alone. The most distressing revelation was that Ryan had been actively targeting families like ours. Parents with unfulfilled athletic goals who were willing to invest extensively in their children's athletic careers. He would discover swimmers with innate talent and persuade their parents that with the correct coaching and financial support, their children might earn athletic scholarships and possibly Olympic success. Ryan appeared to be quite effective at understanding family dynamics and capitalizing on parents' competitive drive when it came to their children's athletic success. He would instill artificial competition among swimmers and their families, motivating parents to invest more money and time to keep their children ahead of the other swimmers in the program. This explains why our family ties have become so strained in recent years. Ryan had been gradually persuading my parents to devote more resources to my training while making them believe Sophie was not dedicated enough to justify the same amount of effort. He had effectively leveraged our family's competitive dynamics to get more money and power. Investigators questioned other families in Ryan's program and discovered similar patterns of dysfunction and financial distress. Parents had taken out loans, depleted college savings accounts, and even refinanced their homes to pay for Ryan's coaching program. Several families faced major financial troubles as a result of their investments in what turned out to be a fraudulent operation. The emotional impact on the swimmers has been severe. Aside from me, there were 12 other swimmers who had been using the illegal supplements without their awareness. All of these swimmers have lost their college sports eligibility, and several had already enrolled in institutions on swimming scholarships that have since been withdrawn. 3 swimmers from Ryan's program had already begun their freshman year of college when the probe conclusions were released. They were promptly suspended from their respective teams, and their scholarships were withdrawn. 2 of them had to drop out of school completely because they couldn't afford tuition without their athletic scholarships. Sophie has been plagued with intense remorse about her involvement in revealing Ryan's scheme, despite the fact that she eventually saved myself and other swimmers from years of further mistreatment. She continues repeating she wishes she had spoken up sooner, but she also worries that if she hadn't acted so quickly, additional families would have been dragged into Ryan's plan. Our parents have been battling with personal shame and financial difficulties. Aside from losing the money they put in Ryan's program, they must also confront the fact that they grew so preoccupied with my swimming career that they disregarded Sophie and harmed our family connections. They have been attending counseling sessions to focus on their parenting style and relationship concerns. The financial impact on our family has been substantial. My parents had planned to utilize some of their retirement assets to augment my college fees, even though I had a full scholarship, but they now need to reassess their financial strategy. They are also considering filing a class action lawsuit against Ryan to recoup some of the money they spent for his coaching program. Ryan was arrested 6 weeks ago on allegations of fraud, distributing prohibited narcotics to minors, and conspiracy. His coaching license has been permanently withdrawn, and he faces several years in prison if convicted of all counts. His assets have been frozen as detectives work to recoup funds for the families he deceived. The ripple effects on our local swimming community have been massive. The facility where Ryan conducted his program has lost the majority of its membership, and several other coaches have been investigated to ensure they are not participating in similar schemes. Parents are becoming increasingly wary of premium coaching programs, demanding greater transparency regarding training techniques and expenses. For me, the last 2 weeks have been spent realizing that my entire athletic identity was constructed on lies and deceit. The swimmer I believed I was does not exist, and the accomplishments I was proud of were the product of prohibited chemicals and falsified competition results. I've started taking classes at a nearby community college to figure out where I want my life to go. It's been difficult to adjust to being an ordinary student rather than an exceptional athlete, but I'm discovering new interests and abilities that I never had time to pursue when my entire life focused around swimming. Sophie and I have started spending more time together, and our connection has gradually improved. She's been assisting me with researching job alternatives and college programs that would be a suitable fit for my current abilities and interests. She's also been really kind with me as I process my anger and disappointment with the situation. The hardest aspect is that I still like swimming, but I am unable to engage in competitive swimming due to my permanently contaminated eligibility status. I've been swimming recreationally at the community center, but it's a very different feeling when you're not practicing for competitions or aiming for certain performance goals. Our family is still attempting to restore trust and communication, but it is a slow process. We are all dealing with the fallout from Ryan's deception and attempting to figure out how to move forward. The counseling sessions have been beneficial, but there is still a lot of damage to be repaired in terms of our relationships and personal self-esteem. Sophie has decided to give up competitive swimming entirely. She claims that the entire experience has caused her to lose interest in the sport, and she wants to focus on other activities that do not involve the same level of competition and possibility for exploitation. She's been experimenting with photography and journalism, which was influenced in part by her research documentation. Ryan's criminal trial has yet to begin, and it will very likely take several months. Meanwhile, detectives continue to review his papers and interview family members to uncover the entire extent of his fraudulent operations. Additional charges may be made when new evidence becomes available. Civil actions against Ryan and his coaching program are now underway, but lawyers have told families that even if we win, Ryan's assets may not be sufficient to completely recompense everyone who was duped. Many families may never recover the money they put into his scheme. Update 3. It's been over 9 months since the scenario began, and I wanted to share a final update on how things have turned out. Ryan's criminal trial ended last month, and while there was some sense of justice, the fallout for our family and the other families involved has been mixed. Ryan was convicted of the majority of the counts brought against him, including fraud, distribution of banned narcotics to minors, and conspiracy. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison and forced to pay compensation to the cheated families. However, the restitution amount was far lower than what families actually lost because Ryan had already spent the majority of the money he earned from his coaching program. Our family received approximately $6,000 from the restitution fund, a fraction of what my parents had given Ryan throughout the years. The class action lawsuit is still proceeding, but lawyers do not expect families to receive any extra compensation because Ryan's assets were restricted. The most significant breakthrough for me was learning that 3 institutions were willing to consider awarding me academic scholarships based on my grades and standardized test scores. Because I was so focused on swimming, I never truly considered furthering my education based on intellectual quality, rather than physical skill. I accepted an academic scholarship to a state university about 3 hours away. The scholarship does not cover all of my expenditures, as a full athletic scholarship would. But when combined with financial aid and a part-time work, I may attend college without placing a pressure on my parents' finances. I'm studying in sports administration with a concentration in business ethics. My encounter with Ryan's bogus scheme piqued my curiosity in learning how sporting organizations may better protect young athletes from exploitation. I hope to eventually work in compliance or supervision roles for sports groups. Sophie began her senior year of high school in the autumn and has already moved on from competitive swimming. She joined the school newspaper and has written pieces on child sports and athlete safety. Her work recording Ryan's program proved to be good preparation for investigative journalism, and she is thinking about pursuing communications or journalism in college. Our family ties have greatly improved in recent months, however we are all still absorbing the effects of Ryan's manipulation on our family dynamics. My parents have been a lot more mindful of not favoring Sophie over me, and they've encouraged both of us to explore our own interests, rather than focusing solely on physical performance. The counseling sessions helped my parents recognize how their concern with my swimming career had impacted Sophie and our family connections. They've tried to foster Sophie's interests in journalism and photography with the same enthusiasm they had for my swimming. Though Sophie occasionally appears uncomfortable with too much attention, my bond with her is probably stronger than it has ever been. We've both learned to express our concerns and thoughts more directly, and I admire her bravery in speaking up about Ryan's program, even though she knew it would have major ramifications for our family. The larger swimming community in our area is still recuperating from the controversy. Several other coaches have developed more transparent processes and improved oversight to avoid similar incidents. Parents are becoming increasingly wary of premium coaching programs, asking extensive inquiries regarding training methods and pricing. 5 of the other swimmers involved by Ryan's supplement regimen have also lost their college athletic eligibility indefinitely. The majority of them are seeking academic scholarships or attending college without athletic funding. 2 swimmers elected to take a gap year to sort out their next moves, while 1 enlisted in the military. Ryan's scam has had the greatest financial impact on families, and they are still struggling. One family had to sell their home because they took out a second mortgage to cover coaching expenses. Another family is coping with huge debt that will take years to repay. Ryan's approach has long-term financial ramifications for certain families. Ryan's coaching facility was permanently closed following his imprisonment, and the building currently houses a different firm. The pool, where I spent thousands of hours training, has been converted into a fitness facility. Sometimes I drive past and reflect about all the time and energy I spent there, but I try not to focus on what could have been. I still swim recreationally several times per week, primarily for fitness and stress relief. It took several months for me to be able to enjoy myself in the water, without worrying about competition times or training goals. Swimming is now something I do for leisure, which is certainly better than my previous obsessive relationship with the sport. Looking back, I believe Sophie spared me from years of further exploitation and severe health concerns from the forbidden narcotics. While losing my swimming career was upsetting at the time, I'm thankful that the truth came out sooner rather than later, when the ramifications could have been far worse. I have no touch with Ryan, and am not interested in connecting with him. Several other families have gotten letters from him expressing regret for his conduct, but I don't believe whatever he says will change my feelings about what he did to me and the other swimmers in his program. My parents have become increasingly wary of persons who promise remarkable results in exchange for large financial investments. They've also become advocates for increased control and regulation of kids' sports programs, and they occasionally speak at community gatherings about warning flags that parents should look out for. Sophie and I intend to continue our work to avoid such exploitation of young athletes. She's been working on a series of stories about youth sports safety for her school newspaper, and I'm thinking about writing about my own experiences for my college newspaper once I've settled into my academic program. The entire ordeal taught our family that sports success is not worth sacrificing family connections or financial stability. We're all working toward our respective goals now, but with much better communication and more realistic expectations of what success looks like. I'm not sure I'll ever totally recover from losing my swimming career, but I'm creating a new identity that isn't just based on athletic achievement. College has been difficult but gratifying, and I'm discovering skills and interests that I never had time to cultivate when my entire life was centered on training and performance. This will be my final update on the matter. Our family is moving forward, and while Ryan's manipulation will always have an influence on us, we will not let it define our future. Sophie and I are doing fine. Our parents learned from their experiences, and we're all better equipped to safeguard ourselves and others against similar exploitation. Story 2. My parents threatened to boycott my wedding unless I invited my sister, who had shattered my 5-year relationship by sleeping with my partner. What occurred next astonished everyone. I, a 28-year-old female, never expected to find myself in this predicament, but here I am. My sister Olivia, a 26-year-old female, and I were quite close growing up. We shared a room in our little suburban home, whispering secrets late into the night and daydreaming about our future. Olivia was always the more gregarious one, with a talent for art and music, whereas I was the studious kind, nose buried in a book. Despite our disputes, we remained linked. Our parents, Thomas, 55, and Grace, 53, taught us to put family above all else. Dad worked long hours as a construction foreman to support us, while Mom worked part-time and took care of the house. They instilled in us a strong sense of loyalty and taught us the value of sticking together through thick and thin. Little did I know how much my familial loyalty would be tested in the coming years. Ryan, a 30-year-old male, and I met during our sophomore year in college. He was a senior, charismatic and popular, who shared my enthusiasm for literature. We bonded over our common love of classic novels, and we spent many hours in quaint coffee shops talking about our favorite authors. Ryan was my first serious boyfriend, and I fell hard and quickly. Ryan decided to stay in town and work for a small publishing business after graduation. Our relationship grew stronger, and we soon began discussing our future together. We moved in together after graduation, sharing a small but comfortable apartment near the city center. Ryan was always supportive of my marketing career goals and encouraged me to aim high. Olivia, on the other hand, had decided to follow her passion for art rather than attend college. She worked several jobs to support herself while attempting to establish a name in the local art community. I admired her tenacity and determination, even though our parents were dismayed by her decision not to pursue more study. Ryan and Olivia hit it off from the start. They shared an interest in indie music and abstract art, frequently engaged in passionate debates about the newest gallery openings or underground bands. I was overjoyed that my boyfriend and sister got along so well, never suspecting that their relationship would develop into something more sinister. Ryan and I were doing well 5 years into our partnership. We'd weathered the storms of early adulthood together, including job changes, financial difficulties, and the death of our beloved childhood dog. We had even begun casually researching engagement rings online, fantasizing about a future wedding and the family we would create together. In contrast, Olivia's life was more turbulent. She moved from job to job, trying to make ends meet while pursuing her art. There were times when she'd crash on our couch, and Ryan and I would assist her financially. I didn't mind. After all, she was my sister, and I wanted to support her aspirations. Everything changed on a wet Tuesday in April. I had a large presentation at work and discovered I had left some important data on my home laptop. Knowing Olivia was staying with us that week, I contacted and requested her to send the files to me. She agreed, and I didn't think anything more about it. Hours later, after nailing my presentation, I checked my inbox to find Olivia's files. But there was something else. Olivia had mistakenly left an email thread open when she transmitted the files. My heart stopped as I read the letters between her and Ryan, which contained intimate details and arrangements for their secret rendezvous. I felt as if the ground had vanished beneath me. The two individuals I trusted the most in the world had deceived me in the worst way. I left work early, my thoughts reeling, and confronted Ryan in our apartment. He attempted to downplay it at first, stating it was simply a few innocent flirtations. However, as I shared more of what I had read, his excuses disintegrated. Ryan eventually disclosed to Olivia that he had been having an affair for 6 months. He claimed it began innocently. Late-night conversations while I was sleeping or working late. A common interest for art that grew into something more. He stated he never wanted to hurt me, that he was confused about his emotions. I couldn't endure hearing it any longer and urged him to go. Confronting Olivia was even more challenging. I approached her modest studio apartment, my hands trembling as I knocked on the door. When she opened it, her expression sank. She realized I'd found out. Unlike Ryan, Olivia did not try to offer excuses. She looked me in the eyes and told me she had fallen in love with Ryan, that they hadn't planned it, but couldn't resist their feelings. The following several months were a haze of agony and hatred. I moved out of the apartment I shared with Ryan and stayed on a friend's couch until I could locate my own place. I put myself into work, picking up extra assignments to keep my mind occupied. I cut off all contact with Ryan and Olivia, blocking their phone numbers and social media profiles. My parents were devastated by the news. They attempted to mediate at first, encouraging me to hear Olivia out and contemplate forgiveness, but I couldn't handle the thought of being in the same room with her. The treachery was too new, too deep. They eventually stopped pushing, but I could see the sadness in their eyes every time the subject came up. After nearly a year of treatment and self-reflection, I felt ready to date again. That's when I met Lucas, 32, at a charity auction for the local animal shelter. He was tall, with nice eyes, and a soft grin that put me at ease right away. We bonded over our mutual love of dogs and our volunteer experiences at the shelter. Lucas was kind and compassionate as I discussed my past. He never pushed me to go faster than I felt comfortable with, always respecting my limits. Slowly but steadily, I found myself falling in love again. This time with a man who actually cherished and respected me. 2 years into our relationship, Lucas proposed on a morning trek to our favorite viewing point. It was simple, private, and beautiful. As we started planning our wedding, I felt a mixture of excitement and dread. The thought of walking down the aisle again triggered memories I'd rather forget. Everything was going fine until my dad mentioned inviting Olivia to the wedding. They contended that she is still family and should be present on my special day. The very suggestion made my stomach turn. How could I celebrate the most joyful day of my life with someone who had given me so much pain? I firmly refused, informing my parents that Olivia's presence would just bring up sad memories and could ruin the day. Lucas agreed with me, saying that our wedding should be about our love and happiness, not attempting to patch relationships that may be beyond repair. My parents did not take it well. They accused me of being petty and unwilling to move forward. They even threatened not to go if Olivia was not invited. Some of our relatives also got involved, accusing me of selfishness for separating the family and asking me to be the bigger person. But I don't believe I am in the wrong here. Olivia deceived me in the worst manner possible. She slept with the man I believed I'd spend my life with. I've worked hard to overcome that grief and create a new life with Lucas. I don't want anything to compromise my newfound contentment and calm. So, Reddit, am I an asshole for not inviting my sister to my wedding? Am I being petty, or do I have the right to remove someone who has badly injured me from one of the most important events in my life? Update 1. I'd want to thank everyone who left helpful comments and advice on my first article. The response was amazing, and it gave me the confidence to have a difficult but essential conversation with my parents. I invited them over to supper last week, determined to clear the air and establish some boundaries. The evening started quite stressful. Mom kept trying to shift the talk toward wedding plans, while Dad was unusually silent. After we finished our meal, I took a big breath and went in. I went into depth about how Olivia's actions had affected me, including the sleepless nights, trust issues that nearly ruined my relationship with Lucas, and the therapy sessions I required to get through my anguish. I told them about the panic attacks I used to get anytime I saw a pair resembling Ryan and Olivia, how I'd lost weight because food lost its flavor, and how I'd poured myself into work to avoid dealing with my feelings. I explained how Lucas had been gentle with me, comforting me during nightmares and consoling me when my doubts threatened to overtake me. To my amazement, Mom burst into tears midway through my explanation. Between sobbing, she revealed that they had pushed for Olivia's inclusion out of remorse. Olivia's life had spiraled downward after the tragedy. Olivia, according to my parents, had lost her job at the gallery where she had previously worked. Her drinking, which had previously been sociable, had progressed to the point that she was rarely sober. She'd been in a number of short-lived, destructive relationships, including one that left her in the hospital with a fractured arm. Mom and Dad felt responsible for not seeing Olivia's problems sooner. They scolded themselves for applauding her free spirit without acknowledging that she may have required more guidance and assistance. In their thoughts, bringing Olivia to the wedding was a chance to reintegrate her into the group and possibly help her get her life back on track. While I sympathized with Olivia's hardships, I made it clear that this did not excuse her behavior or erase the anguish she caused me. I reminded them of all the instances they had assisted Olivia financially and emotionally over the years, emphasizing how supportive they had always been as parents. I highlighted that I am not responsible for Olivia's well-being, and I should not have to give up my peace of mind for her. Dad, who had kept silent for the majority of the conversation, suddenly piped out. He told me a story about his own background that I had never heard before. Apparently his older brother had done something similar when they were younger, betraying Dad's trust significantly. They had never really reconciled, and I could see sadness in Dad's eyes as he recounted decades of stressful family reunions and squandered possibilities. He stated that he did not want the same for Olivia and me, which is why he has been pushing for reconciliation. But he also admitted that he couldn't compel forgiveness, and that healing had to happen on my own terms. Dad apologized for pressuring me and promised that he and Mom would respect my decision regarding the wedding. He also told me that they would attend, with or without Olivia. My parents agreed to speak with the relatives who had been causing me problems and explain the issue. They vowed to stop any future attempts to guilt-trip me into inviting Olivia. After this emotional chat, I felt as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Although my feelings remained unresolved, I felt heard and understood by my parents for the first time since the ordeal began. Lucas, who had made himself scarce during the dinner to allow us peace, was quite supportive when I told him later that night. He held me while I cried, a mixture of relief and anguish sweeping over me. He advised we take a weekend trip to decompress and refocus on our wedding planning. We had a wonderful weekend at a nearby beach town, simply enjoying each other's company and finalizing some wedding plans. We chose our wedding cake, chocolate with raspberry filling, planned the celebration playlist, and even practiced our first dance on the beach under the starlight. This event has increased my appreciation for Lucas. He's been my rock through it all, constantly prioritizing my sentiments and wholeheartedly supporting me. I am more confident than ever that I am marrying the right guy. The wedding is less than 2 months away, and I'm looking forward to celebrating our love with those who actually care about us. I still feel sad over Olivia's absence, but I know this is the best decision for my mental health and happiness. Thank you again, Reddit, for assisting me in standing my ground and prioritizing my well-being. Your support has meant more than you realize. Update 2. It has been a crazy few weeks since my last post, and I have some unexpected news to offer. I got Olivia's letter around 3 weeks ago. The envelope lay on our kitchen counter for days, and I hesitated whether to open it or throw it away. Lucas, ever the voice of reason, argued that reading it would bring some solace, even if I choose not to reply. Finally, on a peaceful Sunday morning, I mustered the confidence to open the letter. It was many pages lengthy and filled with Olivia's distinctive looping handwriting. As I read, I could practically hear her voice in my thoughts, recalling late-night chats and secrets from our youth. Olivia began by acknowledging the grief she had caused me, accepting full responsibility for her actions and offering no excuses. She wrote of the downward spiral her life had taken when Ryan left her, and how she had turned to drink to alleviate her remorse and shame. She claimed to suffering from depression, which had begun long before the episode with Ryan but had increased dramatically thereafter. Her admission that she was going to rehab stunned me the most. She had apparently been in a treatment facility for the previous 6 months, focusing on her sobriety and mental wellness. She wrote of the grueling treatment sessions, group gatherings, and the difficult task of confronting her demons. Olivia mentioned that part of her healing process was making amends to individuals she had harmed. She clarified that she did not seek forgiveness, and respected my decision not to include her at the wedding. Her intention in writing was just to apologize and inform me that she was attempting to become a better person. The letter concluded with a story from our childhood. I stood up for her against some bullies at school. Olivia said that she had always admired my strength and honesty, and that betraying me was her biggest regret in life. I'd want to say I felt a rush of forgiveness after reading the letter, but the truth is that it left me torn. A part of me remained furious and sad, while another sensed a glimmer of the sisterly affection we had shared. I decided to take some time to examine my emotions before making any decisions. After a few days of deliberation and numerous conversations with Lucas, I agreed to meet Olivia at a neutral site, a quiet cafe in town. Seeing her in person after 3 years seemed weird. She appeared smaller, with black circles under her eyes, but she exuded a sense of tranquility that had not previously existed. Our communication was difficult at first, with long pauses and unsure phrases. But as we talked, things became easier. Olivia restated what she had said in the letter, her voice breaking with emotion as she apologized once more for the hurt she had caused. She told me more about her sober journey and the work she had done in therapy. Olivia even showed me a journal in which she had been writing letters to me as part of her recovery, despite the fact that she had no intention of sending them. Reading excerpts from her genuine, unedited thoughts during those sad days was eye-opening. I'm not going to lie. That was an emotional meeting. We both cried as we discussed the past and the sorrow we had both endured. Olivia revealed that she and Ryan had split up just months after I discovered them, their relationship withering under the weight of guilt and anger. She hadn't communicated with him since. By the end of our appointment, I felt a sense of closure that I hadn't realized I needed. The wrath that had been burning inside me for years began to subside, and was replaced by a complex mix of sadness, relief, and cautious hope. After much deliberation and conversation with Lucas, I have decided not to invite Olivia to the wedding. It's too soon, and I want to enjoy my special day without additional worry or mental issues. However, I've agreed to try to re-establish our friendship gradually, beginning with occasional text messages and perhaps coffee meets in the future. Olivia appreciated and respected my decision. She even sent Lucas and me a modest gift, a lovely hand-painted letter wishing us success in our marriage. It reminded me of the cards she used to make for my birthdays when we were younger, which brought back bittersweet memories. I understand that this journey of healing and rebuilding trust will be long and possibly difficult. There are still times when the anguish of betrayal resurfaces, reminding me of everything we have lost. But for the first time in 3 years, I am optimistic about having my sister back in my life eventually. The wedding preparations are in full flow. Lucas and I are delighted to celebrate our love with our closest friends and family. While Olivia will not be present, I am more at peace with that decision now. Our special day will be spent looking forward to our future together, rather than lingering on past hurts. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my wedding, and I wanted to provide you with a last report on this chapter of my life. The wedding day was simply wonderful. Lucas and I exchanged vows in front of our loved ones in the stunning vineyard setting we had chosen. The weather was beautiful, with a moderate wind and clear blue skies that seemed to reflect the delight I felt in my heart. I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, my gaze riveted on Lucas's. All of the drama and pain of the previous years seemed to fade away in that instant. As I stood at the altar with my soon-to-be husband, all I could feel was love and appreciation. The ceremony was modest and personal, with readings picked by our closest friends and vows written by ourselves. There wasn't a dry eye in the house as Lucas promised to always be my safe haven, and I promised to be a constant companion through all of life's adventures. The reception was a happy occasion. The meal was wonderful, the wine was plenty, and the dance floor was full all night. My parents were on their best behavior, praising Lucas and me, and making no mention of Olivia. It was great to see them so joyful and supportive. Olivia, on the other hand, complied with my requests and did not attempt to contact me on the wedding day. Instead, she delivered a gorgeous bouquet of sunflowers, my favorite flowers since childhood, to my hotel room. The accompanying note congratulated us and wished us a life of happiness. It was a lovely gift that I valued more than I anticipated. Since the wedding, Lucas and I have adjusted into married life, which has been fantastic. We recently purchased our first home together, a quaint craftsman-style house with a modest backyard. We've enjoyed making it our own by painting the walls and adding a garden. It feels nice to be starting a life together and making new memories in a space that is genuinely ours. My relationship with Olivia is gradually improving. We've had a few more coffee meetings and are now texting on a regular basis. Our chats are still somewhat guarded, but there is a developing comfort between us that reminds me of our previous connection. Last month we even ate dinner with our parents. It was tense at beginning, with everyone trying to avoid certain topics. However, as the evening went, the atmosphere became more familiar. Olivia remains committed to her recovery and has been making significant improvements in her life. She's back in school, training to be a counselor for disturbed teenagers. She thinks her own experiences have given her insight into the difficulties that young people encounter, and she wants to help others avoid the mistakes she did. Seeing her progress and commitment to changing her life has aided me in my forgiveness journey. Olivia recently requested if she might exhibit some of her artwork at a local gallery. I hesitated at first, recollections of her previous artistic undertakings bringing up conflicting emotions, but I decided to go anyway, with Lucas by my side for encouragement. Walking into the gallery, I was taken aback by the transformation in her work. The chaotic, dark pieces of her turbulent years were replaced by brilliant, hopeful canvases that appeared to throb with life. One painting in particular caught my eye: 2 interwoven trees with branches reaching for the sky. Olivia later told me that it mirrored her hope for our relationship, to grow together again after being apart. While we are not back to being best friends, and I doubt we will ever be, I am glad we are striving to mend our friendship. It's a lengthy process, with occasional setbacks when past hurts resurface, but it feels right. We're learning to be sisters again in a way that honors our separate paths and who we've become. I would want to thank everyone who helped me through this difficult time. Your guidance and encouragement helped me stay strong and make the best decisions for myself. I've learned a lot about setting boundaries, self-care, and the power of forgiveness, not for the benefit of the other person, but for my own peace of mind. Looking back, I learned that the healing process isn't linear. There are good and bad days, periods of growth and moments of uncertainty. But I'm pleased of how far I've come, and I'm enthusiastic about the future with Lucas. To anyone in a similar situation, remember that it is acceptable to prioritize your personal well-being. Healing takes time, and you don't have to forgive somebody until you're ready to do so. Trust your intuition, surround yourself with helpful people, and do not be hesitant to seek professional help if necessary. As for me, I'm looking forward to the next chapter in my relationship with Lucas. We're talking about starting a family soon, and the prospect of becoming parents both excites and scares us. Whatever problems come our way, I am confident we will face them together. My sister got pregnant by my fiancé. My parents told me to forgive and forget, so I gave my sister's baby shower guests proof she stole my fiancé. "We have something to announce," my sister exclaimed in my living room at my party, which I paid for. Everyone went silent. My fiancé threw his arm around her waist like he had never hugged me before. I wondered if she had realized yet. "Poor thing," my sister remarked, rubbing her belly. "We're pregnant." 4 months, he clarified. 4 months. Your face is priceless, he murmured. Did you really think this was serious? I stuck around for your credit cards, but my child needs something more stable, something you don't have. I turned to my parents. My mom sighed. Don't make a scene. Be the adult. My father continued. Your sister requires your support. That is what family is for. She smiled. With what you earn, you won't even notice. You're going to be the most useful aunt in the world. I left. Not one word. I simply drove. I cried me dry. I returned home, disregarded the mess they had created, and went straight to my office. I accessed the investment folder. It was not family money. That was The trust fund my grandfather gave me was the only one who recognized my discipline when everyone else saw an ATM. I'd tripled it in 10 years. I grinned for the first time that evening. Everything, absolutely everything was under my name. They were correct about one thing. Babies are expensive, and they were about to discover the true cost of betraying me. The next morning arrived without tears. I woke up with an odd sensation, similar to when you cut yourself and don't feel the agony until you see the blood. I walked directly to my office and opened the family investment folder on my desk. The first paper is the lease agreement for my sister's apartment, with my name as the principal guarantor. Second, the loan documents for his car, my name again. Third, the family loan agreement for her university, which they signed without reading when they were 20. My riches were the foundation for everything. I scanned them one by one, painstakingly. They had never bothered to understand a single page, signature, or revocation provision. But I did not cancel anything. That was my first strategic decision, a deliberate vacuum used as a weapon. A week later, the initial bait proved effective. My sister contacted me upset when her premium credit card was denied at the spa. What's wrong with your account? I don't know what you're talking about. Everything is fine with my account. I hung up. What they didn't realize was that I had set up notifications on all accounts. Any transaction that above $200 required my manual approval. I allowed typical transactions to go through but prohibited anything that smelled of luxury. I made them feel uncertain without confirming what was happening. Their reaction was typical. They increased their spending like children having a tantrum. They began emailing me links to $400,000 mansions. On social media, they tagged me in photographs of expensive cribs for my baby. My sister even shared a photo of a Mercedes-Benz. The baby deserves to come in elegance. But things did not add up. The 4-month betrayal had left me paranoid. I began auditing our past together, going over every single bank statement. I needed to know how I had been so blind. That's when I discovered the first anomaly. A $0 Uber ride on a day when he was apparently homesick and nauseous. At 11 p.m., the excursion came to a conclusion at the downtown bar district. I made a bogus Instagram profile. I looked up the location tags for that date and area. It took 3 hours, but I finally discovered it. A snapshot posted by a blonde woman I had never met. He was kissing her. My sister was not the other woman. She was simply the safer investment. I kept digging. I discovered 2 years of digital lies, and whole life he had been leading behind my back. Instagram stories I wasn't tagged in. We never booked any hotel bookings together. Romantic dinners didn't exist in my reality. I called a lawyer the next day and scheduled a 1-hour meeting. I want to confirm all of my revocation and execution rights on these 3 assets, I explained, placing the scanned documents on his desk. He spent 20 minutes reviewing them. You have absolute control. You can revoke any guarantee with 30 days notice. For the car loan, you can demand immediate payment of the total debt. For the apartment, technically, you can evict them whenever you want. Legally, everything is ironclad. Their signatures authorize it. I paid the $200 consultation charge in cash and departed with a smile I hadn't felt in weeks. I began documenting everything. I produced digital and physical folders containing screenshots of their exorbitant spending, recordings of their calls requesting money, and communications in which they treated me like an ATM. Every insult, snub, and evidence of their ingratitude is documented with a date and time. Then came the counterattack. My best buddy called me, and her voice was odd. Is it true you've had a mental breakdown? Your sister says you're obsessed and need help. That's when I realized their strategy. Socially isolate me. Paint me as the insane person who couldn't embrace their happiness. Since when do you believe her more than me? I asked her. Uncomfortable quiet. I'm just worried about you. It worsened when my mother called. Her voice was devoid of any diplomatic concern from the parties. It was pure accusation. Your sister is under a lot of stress because of you. It could be bad for the baby. Do you want that on your conscience? Pure emotional blackmail. I'm fine, Mom. Just reevaluating priorities. Stop being dramatic. She's your sister. I know exactly who she is. A month after the fiasco, I received the call I had been waiting for. My mother spoke again, but in a sugary voice. Honey, we're having a baby shower for your sister. We know you've had your differences, but it's time to forgive and forget. Family is the most important thing. I remained silent for 5 seconds. It felt like an eternity. Of course, Mom. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I'll be there. Really? That's wonderful. I knew you'd come to your senses. Count on me. In fact, I'll bring the gifts. When I hung up, I opened my laptop and began composing a detailed list. They were not gifts I was bringing. These were sentences. The game had started. On Monday, after my talk with Mom, I began shifting the pieces. First, I mailed a certified eviction notice to my sister's residence, giving her 30 days to remove. When they received the document, my sister called me and laughed. Seriously, a lawyer's letter? What are you going to do next? Call the police. She cackled as if it were the most hilarious joke in the world. Relax, drama queen. Mom already told us you were going to come to your senses. I hung up without responding. On Wednesday, I stopped paying the installment for my ex's car. The bank began calling him the following day. I knew because he texted me. Fix the car account. This is a system error. On Friday, I sent a letter to the university canceling my support for my sister's final semester, with copies to the scholarship office, the financial department, and the dean. You have 30 days to locate alternative funds or face immediate academic suspension. That's when the true panic began. My sister contacted me at 7 a.m., screaming uncontrollably. On Saturday. What did you do? They're going to kick me out of the university. I'm pregnant. I can't work full time. Good morning, sister. How are you and the baby? Don't give me that. Fix this right now. I can't fix what isn't broken. Check the contracts you signed. Those papers don't mean anything. We're family. Exactly. That's what family is for, I replied, echoing my father's sentiments. Isn't that what you told me? The hush on the other end lasted 5 seconds before she hung up. My ex received a formal repossession warning from the bank the following Tuesday. Of course, he ignored it. He sent me a message. Stop the drama. You're aware that I need the car for work. Think of the baby. As if my sister's baby were my duty. On Wednesday, they hired a low-cost lawyer they found through Google. I know because I received a stupid letter, full of spelling problems, threatening me with serious legal consequences for violating implied family obligations. My lawyer laughed when I showed it to him. Implicit family commitments. This guy got his degree from a cereal box. I requested that he provide copies of all signed contracts, with each revocation clause highlighted in fluorescent yellow. The cheap lawyer's quiet sounded deafening. We never heard from him again. However, my masterstroke required an unexpected ally. I scoured Instagram till I discovered the blonde in the shot. Her name was Andrea, she had a public profile and 3 years worth of images with my ex. I made a phony account and sent her a direct message including a single photo of the two of them kissing on the day he was supposed to be sick. I felt you should know that he is cheating on you with me. We have been together for 2 years. He is marrying me in December. Her response arrived in 10 minutes. What? 2 years? We have been living together for 3 years. Who are you? I emailed her screenshots of our conversations, images of our life together, and receipts for romantic dinners she'd never seen. I'm his fiancé. Oh, he was living with you since he also lives with me. The information exchange took 2 hours. It turns out he had 2 apartments, 2 lifestyles, and 2 ladies paying his bills, each believing she was the only one. Andrea paid half of her rent on the opposite side of town. I paid for everything else. That son of a... She eventually wrote. What do you want to do? Do you know my sister? The one who's pregnant by him? He's pregnant by him? He told me he was sterile. Andrea became my most important ally. She not only confirmed that my ex was a professional liar, but she also had 3 years of evidence of his true personality. Photos at parties while he was supposedly caring for his sick girlfriend, me, messages mocking the fools who maintain my lifestyle, and even videos in which he practiced lies to tell me later on. There's something you have to see, she wrote. They're having a baby shower this Sunday. Your sister posted on Facebook asking for money for the best gifts for the future baby. She sent me screenshots. My sister had started a GoFundMe campaign titled, Help a Single Mom. She explained how her wealthy family abandoned her because she was pregnant. The tale was that I had kicked her out of the house out of jealousy, and she needed community support to provide the best for her baby. She'd raised $1,200. My blood boiled. But Andrea had a better idea. What if I go to the baby shower? As his girlfriend, I have a right to meet the mother of his child. No. Meanwhile, my ex showed up in my workplace parking lot on Friday afternoon. He was nervous, sweating and gesticulating violently. We need to talk right now. I took out my phone and began recording before approaching him. What do you want to talk about? Cut the crap, you know damn well what. Cancel all this before it's too late. Cancel what? Be clear. The evictions. The repossessions. Everything. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you having some legal trouble? Don't play dumb with me. It's my child, my family. You can't destroy my life over a tantrum. A tantrum? Is that what you call finding out you cheated on me for years with my own sister? That doesn't matter. What matters is the future. That baby needs stability. You're right. Babies do need stability. Maybe you should get a job. He went insane, yelling that I was vindictive and would regret it, all captured in high definition. That same night, my parents began direct harassment, including missed calls, WhatsApp messages, and an email from my father's work account. My mother's voicemail read, If you don't come to your senses, we're going to tell the whole family what you're really like. Your Aunt Carmen, your cousins, your grandparents, everyone will know what a selfish, vengeful person you are. Is that what you want? To destroy your family's reputation over a whim? My father was more forthright. This has gone too far. This isn't about the engagement anymore. This is about destroying lives out of spite. I thought we raised you better. I kept every message, audio and threat. On Sunday morning, they tried their final desperate measure. They discovered the account where we had accumulated money for the wedding. They attempted to access it with their old credentials. They discovered the account was empty and decided to close it for 3 weeks. My sister called me and cried. Where's the wedding money? That money was for the baby. It was our money. Our money? With what face do you say our? We were going to be a family. That money was going to be for all of us. You're right. It was for a family. But that family was destroyed when you slept with my fiancé. I decided that it was time for strategic silence. I blocked my sister, my ex, and my parents' phone numbers. Any communication has to go through my lawyer. This maneuver drove them mad. They suddenly didn't have direct access to me. They couldn't manipulate me. They could not emotionally blackmail me. My cousins began receiving panicked calls requesting them to speak with me because I had lost my mind. My Aunt Carmen sent me a lengthy message emphasizing the significance of family forgiveness. My grandma gave me a photo of another cousin's newborn with the caption, "Babies are a blessing. Don't let pride destroy something beautiful." I did not respond to any of them. On Wednesday, the formal baby shower invitation arrived in the mail, a blue card with teddy bears, and the message, "Let's celebrate the arrival of the miracle." Location: my parents' home. Date: Sunday. Time: 2 p.m. Finally, in my mother's handwriting it reads, "We hope this special day helps us heal as a family." I laughed aloud. That night I prepared my gifts. It wasn't simply a folder. I purchased 3 exquisite gift boxes in blue and white paper, the ideal size for baby things. I carefully wrapped them with ribbons and cards. I scribbled the following on each tag: for the future, for stability, and for the truth. The first box contains a copy of the eviction notice as well as all of the apartment documentation. The second contains the car repossession paperwork and the withdrawal of the university sponsorship. Inside the third, screenshots showed my ex's double life with Andrea, the phony GoFundMe page, and transcripts of all the messages in which they threatened me, as well as a USB drive containing the audio and video recordings. On Friday, I unexpectedly ran into my ex at a coffee shop near his workplace. He appeared emaciated, as though he hadn't slept in days. "The baby shower is tomorrow," he explained, approaching my table. "I hope you come with a good attitude. Your sister is very stressed." I looked him in the eye with the coldest smile I could muster. "Don't worry. I'll be there, and I'll bring gifts. Real gifts or more of your legal games. You're going to have exactly the day you deserve." He lingered there for a bit, as if he wanted to say anything else, before turning and leaving. That night, as I was finishing off the final copies of documents, I discovered something. I wasn't angry anymore. The rage had subsided, leaving behind something even more dangerous: absolute coolness and clarity. The frigid satisfaction of knowing that justice would finally be served. On Sunday morning, I got up early and put on my nicest outfit, which I had never worn for them. I took my 3 carefully wrapped boxes and headed to my folks' place. It was time for a baby shower. I came at 2:15 p.m., 15 minutes late on purpose. The baby shower was in full swing in my parents' garden, with blue and white balloons, a candy table, and approximately 30 guests I had not seen in months. My sister, resplendent in the center, with my ex by her side, playing the role of adoring future father. The talk came to an end when I appeared with my 3 immaculately wrapped boxes. My mom raced over. "Honey, so glad you came. I knew you'd come to your senses." My sister grinned at me with her phony smile, which she had practiced since childhood. "Sister, thank you for coming. It means a lot to us." My ex came over and gave me a hug that was 2 seconds too long, enough to whisper, "Thanks for not ruining this." "You're welcome," I said, with a smile that did not reach my eyes. My father requested silence, and my ex took the floor. There he was, discussing ethics and how he had found his soulmate in my sister. Sometimes fate leads us down unexpected paths, but always to where we are meant to be. My sister shed crocodile tears, thanking everyone for their help during these trying times and looking directly at me. I especially want to thank my sister who, despite our differences, is here today. Applause. Smiles. Perfect performance. My mother stated, "It's time for gifts. Who wants to start?" "I do," I replied, raising my hand. I walked to the center with my 3 cartons. All eyes are on me. The prospect of reunion lingered in the air like cheap perfume. "A baby shower is for giving gifts that help the new family build their future," I explained clearly. "My gifts are exactly that, gifts of clarity and responsibility so they can build on a solid foundation." I addressed my parents first. "For you, who asked me to be the adult and reminded me that's what family is for." I gave them the first package. My father opened it with a smile that froze abruptly. Inside came a beautifully bound accounting ledger with the gold leaf title, Family Investment. Page after page itemized every penny I had spent on them in the previous 5 years: apartment, car, university, credit cards, vacations, medical emergencies. The number was underlined on the final page: $147,000. My mother went pale. "What? What is this?" "A receipt. I wanted you to remember exactly what family has been for." I turned to face my ex. "For you, who built this future on the foundation of my support." I gave him the second box. When he opened it, he discovered the automobile repossession documentation and a single key. I got out my phone and projected a shot of his Civic onto the TV screen they had set up for the baby photo slideshow, the tow truck that had taken it away that morning. "You won't be needing this anymore," I replied as he stared at the photo, mouth agape. "Are you crazy? That's my work car. Check the contract. It was never yours." I finally turned to my sister. And for you, who had such a bright future ahead. The third package contained the university's formal notice of suspension and a copy of the student loan agreement, which included a demand for urgent payment. My sister's face turned pink, white, then red as she read the document. You can't do this, I'm pregnant. I'm 2 classes away from graduating. You should have thought of that before. She's crazy, she exclaimed, playing the perfect victim. She's obsessed. She can't stand to see us happy. The muttering from the crowd began. Some nodded, believing her act. I'm not finished, I exclaimed, raising my voice. There's one more gift. A gift that isn't from me, but for you. I plugged the USB drive into the television. The first image that flashed was of my ex kissing Andrea at the pub. My sister stared at him, puzzled. What is this? At that moment, the garden gate opened. Andrea strode in decisively, looking directly at my ex. I came to give my own gift, she remarked calmly, piercing the air. It's called honesty. My ex became as white as a sheet. What are you doing here? Andrea smiled. Meeting the mother of your child. Though I wonder, did you tell her we've been living together for 3 years? The presentation automatically played photographs of my ex and Andrea, including romantic dinners, trips, and bedtime dates that matched with our supposed anniversaries. My sister viewed the photographs as if they were in a horror film. What? What does this mean? It means that your soulmate has 2 apartments, 2 girlfriends, and told each one the other didn't exist, says Andrea. And by the way, he told me he was sterile. My sister collapsed, but she didn't wail like the victim. It was the shrill, frantic screech of someone who had just discovered she had been duped as badly as I had. You son of a bitch, she yelled at my ex while stomping on his chest. You told me she was history. You told me you loved me. My ex, cornered and witnessing his life fall, erupted. You and your stupid family pressured me. Of course I needed a plan B. It was all about the money. Did you think I was going to live as a parasite from a single source for my whole life? The hush was supple. He just confirmed everything in front of the whole family. My father stood up and trembled. Parasite? Yes, my ex said, screaming out of control. You and your money. Your daughter paying for everything. Of course I looked for alternatives. Any smart man would have. My sister was on the ground, sobbing in a way I'd never seen before, completely broken. I stepped over, bent down to her level, and murmured just quietly enough for just her to hear. You wanted a real family. He gave you one. Enjoy it. I stood up, grabbed my purse and proceeded to the exit. Behind me, the commotion was complete. My ex is yelling justifications. Nobody believed. My sister is crying on the grass. Andrea is shooting everything with her phone. My parents were shocked, staring at the accounting ledger, while the visitors murmured and took pictures. At the door, I took one last look back. My mother was soothing my sister, but she was looking at me with a look I'd never seen before. Respect mixed with terror. That's what family is for, I stated loudly enough for her to hear. I drove home in complete silence. I didn't play any music. I did not call anyone. I just drove with a tranquility I hadn't experienced in months. When I arrived at my apartment, I made myself a drink of water, sat on my sofa, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled. My phone began vibrating with messages, missed calls, and WhatsApps. I disregarded them all. It wasn't vengeance I felt in that garden, it was justice. Cold, planned and flawless justice. And for the first time since that awful night at my engagement party, I felt entirely liberated. It had been 6 months since the baby shower. That same night my sister and ex-partner split up. He escaped the city like the rat he had always been. She had no housing, no university and was pregnant, so she had to move into my parents' basement. The irony is exquisite. My parents, who pushed me so hard to keep the family together, are now obligated to support their daughter and the baby with their retirement resources. They became victims of the very daughter they defended. They attempted to reconcile with me 3 months ago. My mother called me, weeping. We made a mistake. We need our family. Of course, I told you. But I'm no longer your ATM. We can have a relationship, but it will be cordial and at a distance. I agreed to see them for lunch once a month, but the terms are strict. No talk about money, no pleas for my sister, and no emotional coercion. They sacrificed their daughter the bank to make a faraway acquaintance. I sold the repossessed vehicle and rented out the apartment. The symbols of my betrayal are now generating passive money. Every month I receive $2,200 in rent, and my lawyer sends me a collection notice for the student loan, a harsh bureaucratic reminder that actions have consequences. I severed off communication with all relatives who pressed or judged me. My social circle was halved, but the quality increased enormously. I no longer have to deal with jealous cousins, misogynistic uncles, or controlling grandmothers. Last week I moved into a new house, smaller than the last one, but all mine, with no bad memories or ghosts from the past. In my study, I have a folder called Freedom Fund. All of the money I save from not supporting parasites goes in there. I've already accumulated $7,000. My sister attempted to contact me once the baby was delivered. She sent me a photo on WhatsApp with the remark, "Your nephew wants to meet his favorite aunt." I did not answer. I blocked that number. I don't hate her. It would demand emotional energy that I'd rather devote to my own life. She just doesn't exist for me. She is a stranger who formerly shared my surname. Last night, as I was evaluating my financial portfolio and observing how my money has increased since I removed the leeches from my life, I noticed something. It wasn't vengeance I sought, it was justice. And justice isn't always exciting or cinematic. Sometimes it's silent, cold, and unchanging. I got myself a cup of tea, sat on my new patio, and watched the city lights. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't experience any exploding satisfaction. I felt something far better: complete tranquility. Order was restored not via cries or drama, but through unyielding boundaries and natural outcomes. My fiancé left me for the neighbor's daughter, but his father secretly rewrote his will, leaving everything to me. My fiancé abandoned me for the neighbor's daughter, but his father secretly modified his will due to his disgust with his son's behavior. I, a 28-year-old female, can't believe I'm writing this. I've been gazing at my laptop for hours, trying to make sense of what happened. I met James, 30 male, at a tech company 5 years ago. I had recently moved to Boston for a job after finishing college in Seattle. James worked in product development, while I was in marketing. He was charming, successful, and appeared great. We started as pals. James would converse at my work during coffee breaks, and we finally had lunch together. 6 months later, he asked me out on a date. I was apprehensive about office connections, but he made them seem natural. We dated for 3 years before becoming engaged. I became close to his parents, Tom, 58 male, and Sarah, 55 female, who treated me like a daughter. They had no other children, and Sarah was overjoyed to gain a daughter. Their beautiful historic home, passed down through generations, became the setting for our Sunday family dinners. During one of these dinners, James proposed with his grandmother's ring, and Sarah presented me with a family necklace as a formal welcome. The wedding planning process was flawless. James' parents insisted on donating, despite the fact that my family was already covered. Sarah assisted with everything, from dress fittings to decor, and bonded with my mother. Everything felt wonderful in the week leading up to the wedding. James appeared excited, so we arranged a honeymoon to Europe, which his parents generously offered us. At the rehearsal dinner, James delivered a moving speech about our future. Sarah hugged me, proud of having me as her daughter-in-law. Tom appeared emotional, despite his reserved demeanor. On the wedding day, as I was getting ready, James' best man arrived, visibly apprehensive. He handed me a message from James, stating he couldn't do it and wanted time to think things through. I called James, but his phone was turned off. His best man admitted that James had left early in the morning. The aftermath was chaotic. My parents rushed to cancel everything. James' parents were stunned. Sarah attempted to reach him, but Tom looked glum, almost unsurprised. I sat in my wedding dress for hours, devastated. The guests were sent home, and all we had prepared went to waste. My parents wasted thousands in non-refundable deposits. 2 days later, when I was still in bed, a friend sent me an Instagram screenshot. James had shared a photo with Kelly, 26 female, a neighbor's daughter who resided 3 homes down from his parents. They were obviously together, looking happy and comfortable in what appeared to be her residence. Kelly had always been there at family functions because she lived so near to James's parents. The caption said, "Sometimes the right path isn't the easy one." I never noticed that she frequently joined us for Sunday dinners with her parents. She was constantly nice, inquiring about the wedding plans and even offering to assist with the arrangements. Now I understand why she was so interested in the details. I found out from common friends that James and Kelly had been seeing each other behind my back for months. They apparently became close after she joined the local tennis club where James played. They had been practicing early in the morning before going to work. What hurts more than James' betrayal is his parents' reaction. Instead of being furious with him, they embraced his new relationship. Sarah called me a week after the wedding catastrophe, not to apologize or check on me, but to explain why I shouldn't be upset with James' decision. She claimed Kelly was a better match for James because her family had connections in the computer world. Kelly's father had a thriving software company, and James was certain to receive a sizable share of the family business one day. Sarah had the nerve to imply that, while they liked me, they needed to consider James's future, and Kelly could provide him with better prospects. She noted that sometimes parents must support their children's decisions, even if they appear harsh to others. The mother who had cried with excitement when I announced my engagement and helped me arrange every detail of my wedding was suddenly acting as if I were simply a stepping stone on her son's journey to prosperity. Then came an unexpected twist. James' father's attorney phoned me 2 weeks after the wedding. Tom updated his will 2 months before the wedding. The lawyer indicated that Tom saw through James's actions and was repulsed by them. He gave me documents demonstrating that Tom had left everything, the family business, properties, and investments, to me rather than James. This was done in secret, without anyone's knowledge, including Sarah. When I questioned the lawyer why Tom would do this, he explained that he had been seeing James' behavior shift over the previous year. He hired a private investigator to investigate some of his suspicions. The lawyer brought me a letter Tom had written to explain everything. Tom had learned James' tendency of exploiting others to his advantage and was ashamed of the guy his son had become. The letter stated that he observed how sincere and hardworking I was and believed I would be a better steward of the family legacy than his own son. I have not notified anyone about the will yet, even my parents. James and his mother still believe he is going to inherit everything. I'm simply trying to digest everything while watching them enjoy his new relationship with Kelly as if nothing happened. Sarah publishes images of them together on Facebook, expressing her joy that her son has discovered his true love. The toughest part is witnessing my almost mother-in-law, who I assume loved me like a daughter, act as if I never existed. Update 1. The last 2 weeks have been an absolute disaster. Just when I thought things couldn't get much worse, I discovered new lies and betrayals that made my head spin. Yesterday, I learned that James' parents mortgaged their historic family house shortly after our engagement. They took out a large debt since James promised to help them with payments after he received his inheritance. Sarah was so sure about James's future with Kelly's family that they not only mortgaged the house, but also took out additional loans to refurbish it and purchase a vacation home on Cape Cod. Sarah had been gloating to my mother about their restoration plans during the wedding preparations, which led me to this discovery. My mother mentioned this to me while we were sorting through wedding gifts that needed to be returned. Curious about how they could afford such expensive upgrades, I inquired. One of Tom's colleagues informed me about the mortgage predicament, stating that he had cautioned Tom against it. But it isn't the most devastating part. Emily, one of my bridesmaids who works at the wedding venue, visited me yesterday. She seemed uneasy and admitted to withholding something from me. She disclosed that James' parents had known about his intention to abandon me at the altar for weeks. They didn't just know. They actively helped him plan the entire affair. Emily overheard Sarah talking about the idea with the venue planner 3 weeks before the wedding. Sarah inquired about their cancellation policy and whether they might receive a partial refund if the wedding was called off at the last minute. The coordinator noticed something weird and told it to Emily, but they assumed it was just an anxious mother-in-law being meticulous. Sarah and James had planned this for more than a month. They continued to encourage me to spend more on deposits that they knew would be lost. Sarah even persuaded me to enhance the floral arrangements 2 days before the wedding, knowing full well that her son would not attend. She assisted me in selecting additional decorations and even suggested that I purchase a more expensive wedding gown, all while being aware of their plans. The more I study, the worse I feel. They sat there at family meals, assisted with wedding preparations, and claimed to be enthused about our future together, all the while preparing to embarrass me in front of everyone I know. I visited with Tom's lawyer again yesterday, and he revealed even more frightening details concerning James. This was not his first experience doing something like this. The lawyer provided me documentation of James's previous engagements to 2 other women. Both engagements ended in identical ways, with James leaving for someone he believed would be more advantageous to his future. The first was Rachel, his college sweetheart. They were engaged during their senior year until James met a tech executive's daughter at a career fair. He ended their engagement by email and began dating the executive's daughter a week later. That romance ended when he found she was not as close to her father as he had imagined. The second person was Amanda, who worked at his first job. They were engaged for 6 months until James learned that her family's business was faltering. He left her for a woman whose father served on the board of a major firm. That romance also failed when the woman's father expressed his disapproval of James. Tom had been gathering this material for several months. He engaged a private investigator, who discovered James' practice of exploiting women for social and financial benefit. This research is what prompted Tom to change his will. The lawyer showed me images, emails, and text messages proving James had been plotting to leave me since he met Kelly at the tennis club. But today provided the biggest surprise. Kelly arrived at my apartment crying. She discovered messages on James' phone while he was showering. The communications revealed that James was already chasing Emily, her wealthy cousin who is destined to inherit her family's multi-million-dollar technology company. Emily evidently visits from California every summer, and James had planned to meet her on her next visit. Kelly was devastated. She showed me all of the texts, including talks between James and Sarah that criticized Kelly and myself. They referred to us as stepping stones along James' route to achievement. Sarah even recommended specific strategies for James to acquire Emily's trust, such as using his friendship with Kelly. The communications also revealed that Sarah had suggested James join the tennis club where Kelly played, knowing they'd meet there. She had planned the entire event, from fostering their friendship to arranging early morning practice sessions where they could meet without my knowledge. Since Kelly left James, Sarah has been phoning me non-stop. She's probably hoping to persuade me to accept James back after his plan with Kelly went through. Every time she called, I let it go to voicemail. Her texts have shifted from nasty to desperate, imploring me to speak with her. She has no idea about the will, nor do I know about their role in destroying my wedding day. The lawyer recommended that I keep my fortune a secret for the time being. There are still some legal steps to go through, and he believes it is best if James and Sarah are unaware of the will until it is finalized. He's scared they'll try to contest it if they find out too soon. Kelly and I talked for hours today. She profusely apologized for her role in everything, claiming she had no knowledge of James's background or plans to pursue her cousin. She believed he had fallen in love with her and abandoned me because of his sentiments. Finding those notes made her realize she was merely a piece in his game. I am still processing all of this information. Every day seems to reveal something new about the folks I thought I knew and trusted. According to the lawyer, we should have all of the inheritance documentation in order within a few weeks. Until then, I'm simply trying to keep my head above water while resisting the impulse to reveal everything I know about James and his mother. Update. This week, everything detonated in the worst conceivable way. James' parents learned about the inheritance predicament during a meeting with their bank. They were attempting to obtain another loan using the family business as collateral for further house upgrades. The bank notified them that they no longer possessed any rights to the company or its assets. Sarah appears to have had a total collapse right in the bank. Sarah arrived at my workplace, screaming. She got past security by claiming to be my mother-in-law and started causing a commotion in the middle of the workplace. She raged at me for manipulating Tom and stealing their family legacy. My coworkers had to summon security to remove her, but not before she informed everyone that James had abandoned me at the altar. I had been keeping it quiet at work, telling everyone that the wedding had been postponed. After Sarah's outburst, James began phoning and messaging non-stop. His messages alternated between begging pardon and accusing me of wrecking his family. He stated he made a tremendous mistake by leaving me and that he still loved me. According to him, Kelly meant nothing, and he only left because he was afraid of commitment. This dramatic change of heart occurred shortly after Kelly moved out, and his efforts to contact her cousin Emily had failed terribly. Kelly informed me that Emily had laughed when James attempted to ask her out. She had already learned everything about him from Kelly and alerted their entire extended family about his actions. James is now unable to access the family business that he was so interested in. Tom eventually ended his quiet this week. He organized a family meeting at his place, inviting Kelly's parents, who had been close family friends for years. Tom revealed everything, including the private investigator's findings, James' pattern with his ex-fiancées, and Sarah's role in allowing his behavior. He explained why he had modified his will, providing everyone the information he had obtained about James and Sarah's scheme. Sarah burst into tears when Tom told her that their home will be foreclosed in a matter of weeks. They had taken out numerous loans, banking on James' fortune to pay them off. They were now drowning in debt, unable to make their payments. Their flawless plan had gone totally wrong. James attempted to explain himself, claiming that he was under pressure from his mother to find someone affluent. Tom pulled out printed copies of James' messages to Sarah, revealing that he had boasted about influencing both Kelly and myself. There were communications discussing how he intended to exploit Kelly's family ties to meet Emily and how he had estimated how much he might profit from each relationship. The most alarming discovery was that Sarah had produced thorough spreadsheets comparing the possible financial benefits of James being with me, Kelly, and Emily. She had kept track of everything, including our family income and possible business contacts. Kelly's father was upset when he discovered this, especially since Sarah was one of his wife's closest friends. James' parents had been pleading with me for forgiveness since the bank began the foreclosure process. Sarah sends lengthy emails describing how she was simply trying to be a good mother and got carried away with wanting the best for her baby. She promised a public apology and even proposed revealing everything to my parents. James took a different strategy. He came up at my place last night with his grandmother's ring, which I had returned following the botched wedding. He urged that we get back together and solve things. He suggested we operate the family business jointly and help his parents keep their home. He appeared to have entirely forgotten that he had humiliated me and plotted everything with his mother. I did not let him in. I spoke with him through the door and warned him to leave before I called the police. He became enraged, accusing me of being cruel and heartless, of ripping his family apart over a single mistake, one that he and his mother had planned months in advance. It had cost my family thousands of dollars in wedding deposits while also humiliating me in front of everyone I knew. Tom called me thereafter to apologize for James' appearance. He stated that he is working with his lawyer to obtain a restraining order against both James and Sarah to protect me. Kelly's father is also assisting, using his contacts to ensure James cannot find another job in the IT business in our area. It's a tiny consolation to know that there are still nice people in this mess. Update 2. After months of legal back and forth, the inheritance has finally been settled. I used a portion of it to launch a profitable branch of the family firm focused on sustainable technology solutions, which Tom had always wanted to pursue but Sarah and James had resisted. Tom has been a great mentor throughout this process, teaching me everything I need to know about the business and connecting me to all of his industry contacts. James attempted to dispute the will in court, saying that I misled his father when he was mentally sick. That backfired dramatically when all of his previous actions were used as proof. The private investigator Tom hired testified about James' pattern with his ex-fiancées, and Rachel and Amanda stepped forward to tell their stories. The judge not only dismissed James' claim, but also ordered him to pay all legal costs. James' parents had to leave their family home last month. They now reside in a small rental flat on the outskirts of the city. Sarah still attempts to reach out on occasion, usually after drinking too much. Her messages alternate between asking pardon and accusing me for wrecking their life. I've blocked her phone number, but she keeps using new email addresses to reach me. James struck rock bottom when Kelly's father exposed his actions to the whole IT world. He had to take an entry-level customer service position at a tiny company outside of town. Last I heard, he was still living with a roommate and working for Uber on weekends to make ends meet. He attempted to apologize to Kelly's family in the hopes of re-establishing those links, but they refused to speak with him. The karma did not end there. Emily, Kelly's cousin, whom James attempted to pursue, ended up dating and just became engaged to Kelly's brother Mark. They now operate the IT firm that James was so interested in, and it is more prosperous than before. Kelly has become a good friend. We meet for coffee on a regular basis and occasionally joke at how we both managed to avoid James' manipulation. Tom has been my staunchest supporter throughout this entire process. He believes that watching me succeed with the company has helped him deal with his disappointment in James. We've grown the business by 40% in just 6 months, and our new sustainable tech segment is attracting the attention of major investors. Tom recently told me that revising his will was the best decision he'd ever made. I've utilized a portion of my fortune to establish a foundation that assists those who have been financially harmed by broken engagements. We reimburse lost wedding deposits and give legal assistance when needed. Rachel and Amanda now work with the foundation, sharing their story to help others recognize the warning signs we all overlooked with James. Following James's unsuccessful challenge to the will, the court issued an order prohibiting him from having any involvement in the family firm or charity indefinitely. He tried to argue that this was unfair, but given the evidence of his previous actions, the judge was unimpressed. My personal life is currently better than it would have been if I had married James. I've started dating again, but I'm taking things cautiously. My parents are proud of how I've handled everything, and watching the company prosper under my leadership has helped them move over their resentment over the wedding tragedy. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if James had been honest from the start. But then I recall what Tom told me: sometimes the worst things that happen to us are actually blessings in disguise. He was correct. Losing James inspired me to discover my own strength, pursue a great career, and create something significant to benefit others. That is worth more than any wedding could have been. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. I was always ignored by my parents. As I grew up, my parents pulled me back home and forced me to take responsibility for my brother. When I started packing and left, my parents barely noticed. I was 25 at the time, just out of college, and ready to go it alone. However, I wasn't surprised by it. All my life, I had been the youngest of 5 children, I mean significantly younger when I say youngest. Emily, who is the next oldest, is 7 years older than I am. I'm different from the rest in a lot more ways. As a child, I occasionally felt like I didn't exist. My siblings continued to have affairs. Everything was left to me to handle. You've heard of glass children, youngsters whose siblings demand so much attention that they are ignored or become invisible. I guess I was. My brothers were constantly in and out of treatment programs, therapists' offices, and hospitals for whatever reason. I became the kid who didn't require much since I was okay. I didn't cause problems because I wasn't as ill or having difficulties as others were. So I was overlooked. I don't think that was intentional, but that's how it ended up. I didn't get the best attention. I can't say I had a terrible upbringing. I had everything I could possibly need in terms of food, shelter, and clothes. However, I didn't exist emotionally. No one asked how my day went or whether I needed homework assistance. I improved my self-entertainment skills. It turns out that my friend played video games. Books gave people a way to escape. I would immerse myself in imaginary worlds while my brothers were losing themselves in real-life problems. I guess it was a survival strategy, although I didn't know at the time. Since I knew I wasn't creating any issues, I kept under the radar. I was not required to volunteer as a caregiver, in contrast to some others who had ailing family members. All of that was handled by my parents. I guess this was how they protected themselves, but they ignored me in the process. Although I didn't receive much attention, I also wasn't pressured to mature too soon. When all of your efforts are focused on keeping one or more children alive, the person who is not in crisis gets lost. I was that person. It wasn't completely awful. Laura and Sophie, who were basically my saviors, became friends by the time I was 9. We connected over that unspoken knowing, even if their houses weren't very attractive either. All we had to do was understand one another. We didn't need to tell each other why we felt ignored or invisible. We would spend hours at one another's houses to avoid the drama in our own families. Compared to the family I was born into, Laura and Sophie felt more like my own family. By the time we started middle school, we were clinging to each other like lifeboats in a hurricane. It wasn't much different in high school. My relationship with my parents remained distant, but my relationships with Laura and Sophie grew closer. We had ups and downs like any other adolescent, but the three of us remained close. We decided to attend the same university after graduating together. It was almost a given when it came time for college. We would go together, of course. It had nothing to do with academics or the school, but rather with maintaining our small family. After doing so, we remained inseparable for 4 years. After graduation, we decided to move to a different state, away from the chaos we were accustomed to. We set up our life in a tiny apartment. It was wonderful to be out on our own and finally focus on ourselves rather than balancing years of familial burdens. My parents barely heard from me for a while after that. I didn't imagine they would suddenly become interested in my life now because, to be honest, we hadn't talked much even when I was living at home. My mother would occasionally text me, generally with trivial questions like, "How's work?" or "What are you up to?" However, we rarely actually talked about anything. It was better that way, or at least that's how I saw it. I no longer required their attention. Sophie and Laura were enough. For once, I didn't feel like an abandoned child because we all had our own lives and goals. I was rather proud to have started a small family of my own. When my mother called last year, that began to alter. Thanksgiving was a few days away. I knew something was awry when her name appeared on my screen because I hadn't spoken to her on the phone in over a year. The last time Mom called, it was to let me know about my sister's burial arrangements, so phone calls always made me wonder. She immediately got to work asking me what time I was leaving for Thanksgiving at home. I was, to put it mildly, perplexed. First of all, I was unaware that they were even celebrating Thanksgiving because we didn't really observe holidays. We celebrated Christmas and Thanksgiving more times than I can count on one hand when I was a child. It was just not a trait of our family. Given our long-standing tradition, it seemed inappropriate to hear her ask in this manner. I told her I wouldn't be attending. I was planning. Laura, Sophie, and I had been planning a ski trip for months. I couldn't possibly cancel that with only 3 days' notice. Aside from that, I couldn't afford a last-minute plane ticket because I lived 2 states away. My mom didn't get it. She seemed as if I was being deliberately difficult when I tried to explain it to her, guilt-tripping me by saying that she would be alone herself because my dad was spending Thanksgiving with my brother Mike at the facility where he works. It seems that Mom would spend the majority of the day alone while my dad was away. See, I got this. I understood why she wanted company, but she gave me 3 days' notice. She thought I would drop everything. When I told her again that I couldn't make it, she got upset and began to act as if I didn't care about the family. She said I was self-centered. After that, she hung up. For a while, I sat there feeling a peculiar mixture of regret and bitterness. Where had they been for me all those years, even though I felt bad for abandoning her? I was now the bad guy for not dropping everything to go home after not hearing from them for months. I searched through my old books for something I might have missed. However, nothing was present. Thanksgiving is not mentioned. You didn't say you wanted to come see me? I was more perplexed by this last-minute guilt trip than anything else. Later that night, I texted her to let her know that I would also be unable to attend Christmas. We planned to go on another excursion. She never responded when I said that I would love to catch up after the new year. I made an effort to be civil. The fact that a few days passed with no reaction was not shocking. I made an effort to get rid of the weird feeling that had entered my stomach, but it persisted. In hindsight, I think that phone conversation was only the beginning of something much bigger, something I hadn't anticipated. At that time, I had no idea how far this disaster would spread. I thought things would settle down after that odd Thanksgiving discussion, but my dad texted me a week or so later. I never get texts from my dad. He's more of a talk when necessary type of guy, let me tell you. I therefore thought there must be a severe issue when his name appeared on my phone. However, what I read when I opened the message seemed implausible. I genuinely burst out laughing. If you don't come home for Christmas, I'm cutting off your college payments. What exactly? I received my degree 3 years ago. No more college payments needed to be stopped. I tried to be lighthearted at first, thinking that perhaps he had confused me for one of my siblings or something. 3 years had passed with no payments. Check your bank account maybe? That, I thought, would be the final word. I reasoned that he would realize his mistake, laugh it off, and move on. Nevertheless, my phone buzzed again a few hours later. The message was longer this time around. Yes, my dad was very angry. He went on to talk about my selfishness, how I was abandoning the family, and how I didn't appreciate all the sacrifices my parents had made for me and my siblings. At this moment, I was just staring at my phone in amazement. I had never once made a request of them. To be honest, I was unaware that they believed they were covering my education expenses. All of my costs, including tuition, had been covered by Grandma. To be honest, I was relieved that she wanted my parents to be removed from that area of my life and out of the spotlight. My dad was trying to put me through this whole guilt trip, and it seemed completely unexpected. I'm sorry you feel that way, but Granny paid for my college. After the holidays, I'm glad to catch up, but I already have Christmas plans, I said after taking a big breath. I assumed that would end it, but it didn't, of course. Instead, he became more focused. He started talking about how the family was supporting me, how I was rejecting them, and how I didn't care about them twice. I was just done if I couldn't even try to spend the holidays at home. It seemed so absurd. When I moved out, people barely noticed that I had been living alone for years. Now, all of a sudden, I was abandoning the family, because I was not returning home for Christmas. The more I considered this, the more angry I got. I tried to brush it off and move on, but I couldn't help but notice how hypocritical it seemed. They hadn't inquired about my well-being, asked if I needed anything, or checked in on me for months. But I was supposed to drop everything and run when they asked for something. If not, it made no difference. I had the impression that I was merely a fallback option for them, someone they could depend on only when it was practical. I called Laura and Sophie to vent my frustration. As usual, they understood immediately. Laura said my parents probably just wanted to exploit me to boost their own self-esteem. She stated plainly, they don't really care if you're there. Sophie agreed with me. Screw them. They just want to feel like they've fulfilled their role as parents by getting you home for the holidays. You owe them nothing. That was it. It was just what I needed to hear. I owed them nothing. I made the decision to sleep on it that night before responding to my dad once more. I didn't want to make a mistaken statement. However, my phone buzzed once more as I laid there attempting to let it go. My dad sent me another stern message. If you don't come home, don't bother coming back at all. I froze as I gazed at the screen. It was like being punched in the stomach. How did we arrive here? From my own father essentially disowning me over Christmas, to hardly speaking to him? I wanted to react angrily, to confront him about all the times I felt invisible in that house and how they had ignored me. However, I decided not to respond. I laid over, put my phone down, and attempted to fall asleep. I had no intention of letting this derail my vacation plans. I received multiple more texts the following morning, this time from my mother. I couldn't help but giggle since they were more of the same, expressions of displeasure and perplexity over why I was being so detached. Separated? They were just now realizing that I had been aloof throughout my life. I ignored the books and focused on preparing for the ski trip. This had taken months of preparation, and Laura, Sophie, and I refused to let my parents bring me down with shame. We drove the following day, and I felt liberated for the first time in a long time. I wasn't feeling guilty about it, not with my parents in mind. I was content to spend time with the people who genuinely loved me. Naturally, though, things can't stay that way forever. My mother sent me another letter in the midst of my trip. Just when I thought I could relax. It had nothing to do with Christmas this time. If I don't come home soon, she added, they'll have to start making decisions about my future without me, which I don't enjoy. That's when it struck me. It had nothing to do with Christmas or the holidays, did it? They were planning something bigger, something much more. Maybe it was about my brother Mike, maybe about the house or the family finances. However, I was aware of one thing. They wanted me to be involved in whatever it was. Not because they were missing me. They needed me, for whatever reason. That was their insurance strategy. The realization came as a shock. All this time, I thought they were just trying to guilt trip me into a homecoming for Christmas. I was never personally concerned about it, though. It was all about them. They cared because they wanted to spend time with me. They didn't care if I was present, and I refused to allow them to drag me back into their mess. After that, I stopped reading their messages. I made an effort to be in the moment and not think about what was waiting for me at home as I spent the remainder of the ski trip with Laura and Sophie. We drank too much hot chocolate, joked, and went skiing. It was just what I needed to re-energize. However, the peace would not endure. After the ski trip, I came home and made an effort to reorganize my routine. It felt good to be temporarily removed from all the family conflict, but I knew it would only last. Yes. My oldest brother Nick called me a few days later. It had been months, perhaps longer, since we had spoken. I therefore knew this would not be a casual talk when I saw his name on my phone. Nick was the one brother I ever thought would be sympathetic to me. I always believed that our relationship might have been better because he wasn't as ill as our other brothers. However, he was enmeshed in his own life, just like the rest of our family. When his name appeared, I paused. Curiosity won me over, even if I wanted to ignore it. Nick jumped right in before I could say hello. Mom and Dad have been talking about making you the legal guardian for Michael when they're gone. I sat there in shock for a moment. I felt like I was struck out cold by someone. Was this a prank of some sort? They had barely been in my life for years, and now they were going to force Michael's care on me. Throughout his life, Michael has spent time in and out of care facilities. What on earth? Finally, trying to maintain a calm tone, I asked, what are you referring to? My heart was pounding. Nick let out a sigh as if he were annoyed that I wasn't accepting this news with grace. You know the situation with Mom and Dad. They're not going to be around permanently, and they need someone to look after things when they go. I said in a trembling voice. And they consider someone to be me? After everything? After all the ignoring and guilt-tripping, they just believe I'll abandon my life and take up their mess? Nick didn't seem to get why I was offended. Look, you're the only one truly steady among the lot. The others have personal problems. You really have your life together. I almost burst out laughing. All together? What am I living? Yes, I had a solid job, a home, and I wasn't constantly in and out of hospitals, but it didn't mean I was prepared to care for someone, especially after years of treatment that was practically non-existent. Maybe you guys should have considered this before now, I said, growing increasingly irritated. They never bothered me about this. Nick came across as defensive. Like you said, as if everything was already decided behind your back. Until lately, I also knew neither. Still, I considered you should hear it from me before they tried to spring it on you. This has nothing to do with Christmas. Now, the scope of this went beyond a holiday. Michael's parents had big plans for him, and they hadn't even looked to see if I was prepared to take on that kind of responsibility. They just assumed I would. I said, what then? Am I meant to move back home, drop my entire life, and give up all I have worked for to take care of Michael? Nick had no answer for that. I didn't give a damn. I had been ignored my entire life because I wasn't causing trouble, despite his attempts to convey how hard things were for our parents and how they were balancing Michael's care. Problems. Since I wasn't crumbling like the others, I was destined to assume this massive responsibility. There was not enough fairness. I interrupted him in the middle and said, I'm not doing it. I won't be their backup, not here. For a minute, Nick remained quiet. They didn't care about me for the last 25 years, and they don't deserve to make me answerable for anything now. He continued. I get it. I do. Indeed. Still, you are a member of the family. I wanted to yell when I heard the word family. A family? Which family? The family that abandoned me while I was growing up? The family that only gets in touch with me when they need something? I did belong to the family, but only because it was convenient for them. I said, sounding resentful. They turned their backs on me a long time ago. I'm just finally walking away. There was silence on the other end of the telephone. After letting out a sigh, Nick remarked, "I'll tell them." After hanging up, I sat there and stared at the wall while attempting to sort everything out. There was a part of me that wanted to shout, throw something, and release all the anger I had accumulated over the years. Nevertheless, I simply felt lethargic and, to be honest, exhausted. I completed their contingency plan. I was expected to step up when things become difficult, but I was done being invisible when it was convenient. I didn't hear from Nick or my parents for a few days. It was as if they were waiting for me to realize my mistake and become the good daughter they had suddenly decided I should be. Even if I changed my mind, I would not move. I got a letter in the mail one afternoon. I wasn't going to let them burden me with their problems because I had my own life. This was from my mother. She had sent a letter instead of calling, maybe in keeping with our 1800s lifestyle or something. The letter was lengthy and haphazard, and it contained the same guilt-tripping nonsense I had heard my entire life. She went on to talk about how much they relied on me, how hard their lives were, and how they weren't sure what to do if I weren't there. What really got me, though, was the letter's final line. "Emily, we are not asking for much," she wrote. That's when I realized. They weren't begging me to be a part of their everyday life or missing me. This had to do with their wish for someone to clean up their mess when they were gone. When the family was gone, someone was needed to fill in. It was convenience, not connection or love. They wanted to patch things up because I was the only one who wasn't crumbling. I ripped the letter to pieces and tossed it in the trash. When I folded up that letter from my mother, I felt like I had gone as far as I could. I'm finished. I had nothing else to say to them. After years of disregard and usage when it was convenient, they wanted me to take the burden? Of course not. That, I decided, was the end. I blocked their phones after throwing away the letter. It was not the end, of course. A knock on my door occurred a few weeks after I had blocked their numbers. Since it was a weekday, I didn't anticipate anyone. I thought it may be a delivery at first, but my mother was simply standing there when I unlocked the door. She stood on my front porch as if she had a lot of right to be there. I hesitated, unsure if I should slam the door in her face or listen to her. Her appearance had altered. Maybe she was older, maybe she was just more tired. She wasn't the same woman I'd known growing up, for whatever reason. I was unable to determine if it was the years, the stress, or another factor. I didn't feel sorry for her though, not after everything. I tried to speak steadily as I asked, "This is where you are working?" She took a while to respond. She just stood there, looking at me as if she had forgotten who I was. Finally, "We need to talk, Emily," she said. I let out a groan. "No, we truly do not. I have said all I need to say." She took a step forward as if she were going inside, but I remained motionless. I had made the decision to let her in, despite all the deceit and guilt trips. Knowing I wouldn't move, she paused and her voice grew softer. "Your father's condition is growing worse. He visits the hospital, in and out. We have no idea how long he has left, my Emily." I had no idea what to do. "Your father is dying." The card was the one she had been waiting to play. She didn't say anything direct, but I could tell what she was attempting to say. And see, I'm not ruthless. I didn't want my dad to suffer. However, I couldn't just abandon everything and rush to their side like a docile child after everything they had done to me. "I apologize," I responded, attempting to sound composed. "Still, this is not my issue. Years of figuring this out have gone between you and Dad. You cannot simply turn here right now and expect me to make everything right." She gave me the impression that I had struck her. "I'm not calling for your fixing of anything," she replied. "Simply put, I need you there for the family." Once more, that word. Family. I almost burst out laughing. Which family? The one who turned away from me 25 years ago? The one that only speaks with me when they need something? Mom, that family is not what we have. That's manipulation. I thought she was going to argue with me, but she just broke down in tears. My mother began crying on my doorstep, and I was at a loss for what to do. Furthermore, I couldn't just watch her cry. However, I had no intention of inviting her inside. "Look," I replied, lowering my voice despite myself. "I understand this presents challenges for you. I really do. I am not, however, your fallback option. I won't be the one to come and put things under control. You have to face the consequences of your decision. For a minute, I saw anger flicker over her face as she dried her tears and looked up at me. Emily, we did the best we could. You are not aware of what it was like raising all of you and juggling everything. We were trying to keep everyone else alive. Hence, we ran out of time for you. I had heard the same explanation a million times before. I had a firm voice. I said, and that's not my fault. You decided to bear 5 children. You decided to drop me behind and concentrate on everyone else. Not mine. That was your choice, and right now, you're attempting to shame me about it. Mom, I am not going to do it. She looked at me for a long time, as if she had forgotten who I was. Maybe she still thought of me as the quiet student who never caused trouble and could be ignored because I didn't require her. However, that child had vanished. They couldn't use me to clean up their mess since I wasn't invisible. Thus that's it? She said in a cold tone. You're just going to ignore us? She finally questioned. I gave a headshake. Not yes. Many years ago, you turned away from me. After that she remained silent. I'm just finally walking away. All she did was turn and go back to her car. I watched her leave while feeling a weird mixture of feelings. Of course, I was depressed, but I felt liberated most of the time. It seemed like I had finally let go of something that had been bothering me for years, something I should have let go of a long time ago. I went back inside and took a seat, attempting to organize things. I was no longer angry with her. I wasn't even injured. All I did was carried out. I had life to live, and I refused to allow them to drag me back into their mess despite the humiliation, the manipulation, and the constant feeling of inadequacy. There was silence for the following few weeks. No SMS, no calls, no mail. It seemed like a huge burden had been lifted off my shoulders, and they finally appeared to understand that I would not be coming back. I focused on my life, my career, and my friends. I didn't keep an eye on myself, anticipating the next guilt trip. I was defying established conventions. Their expectations were no longer a burden on me. After about a month, Nick sent me an email. It was only a few sentences long, but it covered everything I needed to know. Last night Dad passed away. I'm not sure how to feel. I thought you ought to be aware. I spent a lot of time looking at the email. It wasn't shocking to me. This was headed my way, I knew. To be honest, I didn't feel depressed or anything else. Actually, I did nothing. I thought about answers for a while. I thought about calling Nick to see how he was doing and maybe even to offer my condolences. But then I realized that this was only another stage in the same cycle, another chance for them to pull me back in. And this time, I hadn't been duped. Without replying, I dismissed the email and continued with my day. I had finally come to terms with leaving their world. After 6 years of married, my wife proposed we open our marriage. So I filed for divorce and blocked her access to my $12,000 paycheck. I, 37, have been married to Sharon, 39, for 6 years and known her for 10. I serve in the Marine Corps as a logistics officer, and I am deployed for 6 to 7 months each year. My job pays well, approximately $120,000 with benefits and combat pay, which allows us to live comfortably. In 2014, we met through mutual acquaintances at a cookout. I was already in the Marines, and she was an elementary school teacher who earned around $45,000 per year. She seemed different from the other ladies I had dated. She understood the military lifestyle because her father had served for 25 years. She was self-sufficient, had her own career, and did not desire me solely for the advantages, unlike several military wives I had known. After 4 years of dating, we married in a beautiful ceremony in front of friends and family. Her father, a veteran himself, was pleased to welcome another military man into the family. The first several years were excellent. Sharon was encouraging about my job and proud of my service, and we made the most of our time together while I was home. During deployments, she kept busy teaching, going to her book club, and spending time with military wives who understood her situation. We established a routine, weekly video dates, care packages, and occasional visits while I was at port. I even bought her a 4-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood near her school, replaced her car every few years, and made sure she had all she needed. She always felt the deployments were worthwhile, and she was happy to be a military spouse. We discussed having children, but agreed to wait until I could obtain a desk job because she didn't want to raise them alone for half the year. Life seemed wonderful until everything changed. Sharon began spending more time with a new set of yoga class acquaintances, most of whom were single women or divorced mothers from her school. She shared photos of their girls' nights out at upscale restaurants and clubs, places we used to frequent. I didn't think much of it, believing she'd be busy while I was away. She began to care more about her looks, purchasing nice clothes, having her hair done frequently, and joined a gym with a personal trainer. I assumed she was rewarding herself with the money I made. Looking back, all of these were red signs. During a normal video call date night, Sharon suddenly exclaimed, "Let's open our marriage." I thought she was kidding, but she was dead serious. When I questioned what was going on, she replied she had been thinking about it for a time and felt it was best for us. She asserted that no woman could control her cravings for 6 months and that she was tired of dealing with deployments. She had been living a single life much of the time, desiring closeness. I felt awful about how she reduced our marriage to nothing more than sex. After 10 years together, 6 of them were married, she surprised me with this. I tried to remain cool and thanked her for everything she did to keep us going. I informed her that the distance was part of my profession, which we both agreed upon when we married. We'd discussed transferring to a desk job before, but the chances hadn't come up, and I really enjoyed what I did. Sharon was aware of this and seemed to agree with it, at least until recently. She became irritated when I attempted to have a sensible debate. I proposed we discuss it later, when we were both calmer, but she insisted on settling it right now. She complained about being lonely, spending birthdays and anniversaries alone, and going to doctor's visits by herself. She began crying while discussing all of this. Look, I understand it's difficult. I miss a lot of key moments too, but what am I expected to do? This was exactly what she signed up for when she married me. When we initially married, many people advised us to have a child to keep her occupied during deployments, but Sharon was not ready to be a single parent for half the year, and I agreed. It wasn't fair to dump that responsibility on her, so we decided not to have children until I got a desk job. Now I'm wondering if that decision worsened her loneliness. Still, opening the marriage? That's not right. I inquired whether she was breaking up with me. She responded, "No, I love you. I could never leave you. I want to grow old with you. But I'm about to turn 40, and in a few more years, I'll hit menopause. I have so little time to enjoy my sexuality. Half of my golden years are going just waiting for you. I don't want that. I want to live a fulfilling life and not die with regret." She had never discussed sex in such detail during our relationship. We always had a strong physical connection when I was home. Sure, we used toys and video conversations to keep close throughout deployments, but she never complained that it wasn't enough. I could see this talk wasn't going well. She wasn't asking for permission, she was telling me what she planned to do. "What exactly do you want?" I inquired, despite my fear of hearing the truth. She stared at me through the screen and said, "I want to open this marriage and meet other men. I have needs, and they must be met. I'm doing this whether you like it or not." The lady I married, who pledged to remain faithful through everything, was sitting there telling me she was going to sleep with other males, and there was nothing I could do about it. I tried to remain calm, even though I wanted to strike something. "So you want to sleep with other men while still being married to me?" I said. When she nodded, I asked how this would help her loneliness. Would these random males care for her while she was sick or celebrate her birthday? She stated she wasn't sure if it would be physical or if she would date them, but whatever happened, she loved me and only me. They'd only be fillers while I was gone. When I get home, she will be all mine. As if I'm supposed to be okay with sharing my wife for half of the year. Then I questioned how long this would last. A few years or forever? She had not made a decision. I questioned if she had already cheated on me. She snapped, "If I wanted to cheat, I wouldn't be having this conversation." She thought being honest about wanting to sleep with other males was preferable to lying about it. There's some warped logic there. I inquired whether I had any say in this. She claimed her mind was made up. If she didn't do this, she would go insane. My head was throbbing. I informed her that I needed time to consider. She simply hung up without saying goodbye. What makes this situation even more messed up? I just left home 3 or 4 weeks ago after 3 months together. Throughout my absence, everything appeared to be in order. We flew to Hawaii for our second honeymoon, fixed up the house as she requested, and even discussed eventually trying for a baby next year. She was very lovey-dovey the entire time, always discussing our future together. The day I left, she was grieving and making preparations for my next leave. We had even started saving money for our future child. I was looking for opportunities at the nearby base so I could spend more time at home. That's how committed we were to starting a family. When I inquired the next day why she didn't bring it up while I was there, she stated she didn't feel the need for other males around me. That's when something clicked. She's undoubtedly met someone at her new gym or through those single buddies. The timing was quite convenient. Just before I left, she highlighted a new personal trainer at her gym who was really inspiring and had been giving her extra attention. I didn't think much of it at the time, but the way she pushed for it shortly after I left made it seem planned. Part of me wanted to believe it was just about loneliness, but I'm not that gullible. My friend Mike went through something similar last year. His wife requested an open marriage during his deployment, but it found out she was already dating someone. They are now divorced. I questioned Sharon again if this was really what she wanted, if she had considered what it would mean for us and our future plans. She replied yes without hesitation, as if the 3 months we spent planning our lives together mattered nothing. I decided to really push her on the details. Not because I was considering it, but to understand her faulty logic. I inquired about the setting. Could I see other women? How would we handle the money? Her response demonstrated how selfish this whole situation was. She claimed she hadn't considered that far ahead. She merely wanted someone to look after her needs while I was away, but when I returned, it would be just us two. She stated I could try stuff on port days, but I couldn't see other ladies at home because she would be there. According to her excellent idea, we'd see how it goes, and possibly end the marriage once she'd finished exploring. I had had enough. Look, this isn't what I signed up for. I wanted a monogamous marriage, but since you've made up your mind, I won't stop you. Just remember, I'm not going to sit here and take it. There will be consequences. She had the audacity to ask what I was going to do about it. I quietly informed her. First, she'd have to cover her own expenses. No more money in our joint account. Second, we'd sever all communication. I didn't want calls or texts when she was occupied with her business. Third, I might start seeing other women, with no restrictions from her. She laughed and said she knew I'd come along, that she was excited, and that it would be enjoyable. Then she said, I know you won't go too far. How can you leave such a ravishing beauty? And began removing her clothes. I shut that down quickly. My conditions begin today. Have fun. Then I hung up. That was it. I stopped caring about her. She attempted to reach out, but I ignored everything. She began uploading obvious date night and vacation shots without revealing the guys. But come on, a hot tub selfie with rose petals, candles, and 2 wine glasses? It's not hard to figure out what's happening. Her sister texted to ask if I knew what Sharon was doing. I told her straight out, Sharon started the marriage without my permission because she is lonely between her legs. Sharon blew up my phone after that, but I didn't care. My next shore leave begins next week. I already have my brother looking for an apartment. I told him and my parents the entire story. I also hired a lawyer to begin work on my case. I am not hurrying anything. I want to do this right and aim to make her regret her decisions. I will provide an update during my absence or when I return. If you've read this far, I appreciate it. Update 1. I need to address something quickly before getting into what happened. Everyone seems to sympathize with military women. Poor thing has to live alone, even though she's married. Or, what about her needs? And so on. Then they stare at me as if I'm the terrible guy for not understanding her circumstances. Yes, everything people say about it being difficult is correct, but nobody compelled her to marry me. She lives in our 4-bedroom house with a pool, which she could never afford as a teacher's salary. She drives a new BMW I bought for Christmas last year, carries Louis Vuitton luggage, and wears a Cartier watch that costs more than her monthly salary. Every summer, we take a vacation in Europe or the Caribbean. She has her hair done at luxury salons, attends yoga retreats, and never has to worry about bills. But it's funny how no one discusses these privileges when they're feeling sorry for her. She was living like a queen on my wages and complained about being lonely. Let me tell you something, keeping faithful isn't easy for us either. We travel across the world, stop at various ports, and have access to almost any luxury we desire. At the harbor, beautiful women are throwing themselves at soldiers in uniform. The majority of them do not care if you are married. My friends joke that I could have a girlfriend in every country if I wanted, but I've always remained faithful since that's what marriage means to me. Some of us continue to be faithful to our wives, but no one recognizes our efforts. They just presume that all military personnel cheat. Now for what transpired during my leave. I did not return to our residence. I couldn't bear the thought of being in the same bed as her other male partners. My brother had secured me an apartment in one of the town's new luxury towers. I spent the first few days with him and his family. My sister-in-law was upset when she learned what Sharon did. They used to be good friends. I brought my niece and nephew camping for the weekend, something I'd been promising them for years. The kids were asking where Aunt Sharon was, and I felt terrible having to make up explanations. Then I spent time with my parents in our hometown and caught up with old acquaintances, all of whom claimed they had never trusted Sharon. I shared everything on social media, not to be petty, but to show her that I wasn't sitting around depressed without her. My shore leave usually consists of these high-profile military parties, fancy gatherings held at five-star hotels that Sharon always enjoyed attending. Not everyone is invited to these events. It's largely top commanders and their wives, politicians, and prominent citizens in town. These parties were significant for her social standing. She enjoyed showing off her beautiful outfits and attracting attention. I made sure to publish a lot of photos, including ones of female coworkers who are far more successful than her, doctors, lawyers, and company owners. When people inquired about Sharon, I just told them the truth. She wanted an open marriage to screw about while I was gone. Word traveled quickly in our community, and all the military ladies who used to kiss her ass began unfriending her. When she first saw my family photos online, she simply texted me, asking where I was staying and why I wasn't at home. Then she switched to, "Okay, I'll give you space. I'll wait for you," as if she was doing me a favor. However, when she saw the party photos, she lost it. She began contacting me about how I abandoned her, wondering if we hadn't agreed to be normal. When I got home, she started messaging me at 2 a.m. about how much she missed our life together and how all these other guys didn't matter. I did not respond to any of it. After months of silence, I eventually said, "I never agreed to this. You did what you wanted. Now I'm doing what I want." She responded with some gibberish about waiting for me to come back when I'm done, as if I were a child acting out. She truly believed she could simply stop our marriage while she had her pleasure and then resume when she was finished exploring. A few months later, she contacted me, expressing a need to discuss the terms of our open marriage, as if we could sit down over coffee and arrange when she could cheat. I shut it down quickly. "Do whatever you want. I'm not playing this game." My lawyer told me to make a record of all these communications since they would be useful in the divorce. Then she saw me living my best life and sent me emails saying, "Let's go back to normal. I'm done with this," as if she could simply flick a switch and everything would be fine. She wrote a lengthy email about how she made a mistake, how none of these other guys made her feel the same way I did, and how she recognized what she was missing. She stated that she would do anything to save our marriage. I simply said, "Ha," and went on with my day. My mother, who hasn't spoken to Sharon since this incident, said it best. "She didn't expect you to choose your dignity over her." Sharon unexpectedly dropped by my apartment one day. I have no idea who told her where I lived. I only shared my address with close family and a few trusted pals. Someone must have snitched, but I don't want to know who at this time. I was getting ready to go for a workout when I heard a knock. She looked totally different from when I left. She had lost weight, colored her hair blonde, and was wearing a tight outfit she had never worn before. She stood there, nervous, and asked why I wasn't staying at our house. I told her straight out that I had no intention of living with someone who disrespected our marriage. She didn't like that response at all. "I thought we could figure this out," she replied, as if we were having a little argument over which color to paint the kitchen. I just looked at her and said, "You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." She burst into tears and told me how everyone in our social circle was ignoring her. None of my friends' spouses spoke to her anymore. These were women who used to be her best pals. They'd go shopping together, take spa days, and organize dinner parties. They wanted nothing to do with her. All those lavish parties she enjoyed, nobody invited her anymore. It turns out that being known as the wife who started her marriage while her spouse was deployed has a negative impact on your social status. "What do you want then?" she inquired through tears. I just answered, "You'll find out soon enough." She looked concerned and added, "You met someone, right? You love her, don't you? Are you seeing her?" I couldn't help but laugh. She was the one who wanted to see other people, but suddenly she was jealous of the idea of me with someone else. She continued to beg for answers, but I had had enough. I just cried, "Get out." And she went, claiming I'd regret betraying her trust. The irony of the sentence: my lawyer had already prepared the divorce paperwork. I planned to have her served once I returned to see so she wouldn't come crying into my apartment again. She wanted to open things up? Fine. I was about to initiate divorce proceedings. My attorney served her on the day I left the shore. She contacted me in a frenzy, shouting about how I had betrayed her and left her broken, as if she were the victim in all of this. Then she called my lawyer and said she would fight the divorce until the end and would not let me go, as if she had a choice in the matter. She also tried to play the victim role with my parents, calling them and wailing about how I had taken her by surprise and how she had no idea what was coming. That backfired very quickly. They already knew everything and told her just how they felt about her behavior. They promptly blocked her number. Then her mother called me. Sharon has been telling everyone that we had agreed to open our marriage. She had convinced her entire family that this was a mutual decision. Her mother said they felt it was strange but assumed it was our personal choice. I shut that down quickly. No way. I already told your other daughter the truth months ago. I was never on board with this filthy idea of hers. Her mother began talking about how Sharon's mental health was deteriorating because everyone had cut her off. All those beautiful gatherings she used to like going to? Nobody invites her anymore. The other officers' wives refuse to speak to her. Her mother truly expected me to feel horrible about this. I thought to myself, why would my friends keep inviting her when she's not even my wife anymore? Is there any chance you could work things out? Her mother inquired. I chuckled and replied, not at all. I can't be the husband of a woman who has kept her legs open for tourists for the last year. Who knows what kind of dirt has gone in there? It was harsh, but I wanted them to know how I felt about their lovely daughter's behavior. Sharon's mother indicated she wasn't ready for divorce. I was upfront with her. The longer she fights this, the worse it'll be for her. I'm moving forward with my life whether she likes it or not, so she better cooperate for her own sake. Sharon has now bombarded my phone with texts and voicemails. She begs, pleads, and promises to change, stating she will do anything to make things right. I have not blocked her yet. Perhaps this is selfish, but I want her to see exactly what she tossed away. I'll block her eventually, but for the time being, I'm letting her suffer as much as I did when she sprung her open marriage on me. Update 2. Here's the latest update. I'm enjoying a shore break again. Divorce procedures are underway, and Sharon has been fighting hard against them, not because she wants to heal things, but because her perfect little plan is unraveling. However, she is now absolutely broke. That shiny new world of freedom she desired so much? It turns out it wasn't as glamorous as she imagined. All those guys she was going out with. They merely wanted to have fun with a married woman. They all left when the money ran out. She literally burst into tears in front of the magistrate and stated that opening the marriage was a mistake. She now wishes she could simply rewind the past year and have everything return to normal. After I denied her access to our joint account, she depleted her funds in an attempt to maintain her lifestyle. Within a year, she'd gotten through everything. Her teacher's paycheck barely covers rent now, let alone the fashionable outfits she's grown accustomed to. That's the problem about living large. Once you're acclimated to it, there's no turning back. When she first disclosed the marriage and I withdrew my money, she assumed it was only temporary. She assumed she could rely on her savings until I came to my senses and began subsidizing her lifestyle. That was her wonderful plan. Be a faithful wife during my breaks and then go crazy while I'm overseas. Her strategy failed miserably. She begs for another opportunity at each court session, saying, let's start over. It's easy for her to say. She wasn't the only one who had to deal with shame and trauma. Do you know what truly gets me? She purposefully dropped the open marriage notion just before my deployment began, leaving herself 6 months to do anything she wanted before I returned. Those first months at sea were terrible. You're stuck out there with nothing but the ocean around you, no distractions, just staring at the water and thinking about what's going on at home. Sometimes the dark thoughts are really unpleasant. I can't express how difficult it was to keep myself together. Anyway, the divorce is virtually complete. Just one more court date. Even though she is dissatisfied, the asset distribution has been settled and is fair. I'm selling my house. I can't bear the thought of remaining in a place where she wrecked our marriage. She can't buy me out since she can't afford half the price. That's fine with me. I don't want to cling on to anything from that existence. I truly enjoy my new life. I'm doing better than ever. I've met new people, established a strong routine, and feel free to live my life the way I want. I am not bitter about what happened. Honestly, I'm glad I didn't let her decisions ruin my future. I'm not looking to date right now, but I'm open to anything that comes along. I've blocked Sharon on all of my social media sites, but she keeps creating new profiles to stalk me. I can see them easily, but I let her look. Let her know exactly what she gave up. Her Instagram used to be all about extravagant parties, exotic travels, and beach photos. Now it's only melancholy statements about regret and second chances. I suppose that's what happens when you mess up a good thing. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. My ex-wife has been continuously harassing me. I'm overwhelmed and have even considered giving up custody of my kids just to make it all stop. Original post. I don't know where to begin. I was married for 13 years. Have 2 small children, 4 and 6. And after being divorced, I am now remarried to a wonderful woman, Donna. My ex will not stop harassing me. I have to communicate with her for the kids. But it was so contentious that the court finally ordered all communication to go through an online site, and I had to change my phone number and move. It was that bad. I had my kids this weekend. Things went great and I went and saw my family. No incidents, we had a great time. Then I got this email. Jill and Marvin, kids report that they were in a traffic accident with you this weekend, in the truck. They both report that the loud, obscene exchange between their father and the ABC towing driver scared them. They both report that they were bitten by Greg's dog, Murphy, during their visit at your folks' house this weekend. This is the second dog they have both reported biting them. I have also posted their reports that they have been bitten by a large dog named Betsy, at your in-laws' house. They have traumatic memories of metal being scraped out of your leg. I hope that you recover and get back to your job quickly. I hope that Donna is okay. They report that you have trouble walking. This is consistent with behavior I observed at drop-off on Sunday night. You didn't get out of your new car, and it appeared very awkward for you to unbuckle their booster seat belts from the driver's seat. I need to know about these things, please. Dog bites are notoriously dirty and prone to infections. Just because our children didn't appear to be as seriously injured as you were in the truck accident, doesn't mean that they couldn't be stiff and sore and possibly have internal injuries for which I need to be observing. At least I need to understand why they were stiff and sore and acting more fearful than usual when they came home. Their mild to moderate bruising and scrapes, and the chunks of skin missing from their hands and fingers, are consistent with their reports of the accident and the dog bites. I will take Jill and Marvin to the pediatrician walk-in clinic to rule out any unseen injuries and infections. It would be nice if you would call or email the doctor's office and tell them what you can about the accident and the dog bites. It could help rule out tests and treatments that might not be necessary. It would also be nice if you would pay your half of their medical expenses. Especially because the accident and the dog bites happened when they were with you. Today is Jill's first day of school. I could have taken them to the doctor 2 days ago, if you had shared that they were bitten and in a traffic accident that was bad enough required a tow truck for the truck, and medical care for you. If you want to drive the kids to Santa Barbara and back on a weekend, expose them to animals that aren't safe for children, and fight with tow truck drivers in front of them, I cannot prevent that. But what happens to their little growing bodies, and the events that are being imprinted on their sweet, innocent minds, is very much my business. Please share all of the information regarding what happened to our children in the truck accident. Please share all of the information regarding the bites from the dogs. As a mother, it is very worrisome to hear my preschooler and my first grader recount the dangerous things that are happening to them. But it is even more worrisome that my co-parent withholds vital information about their health. Jill and Marvin deserve to know that their parents are working together to take care of them. Thank you. Rest of the post, I don't even know where to begin. The dog that was there had no teeth. Didn't bite them. And couldn't have even if it wanted to. My in-law's dog is dead. I was never in an accident. There was no tow truck. All of this is false. I can't even find a shred of a real event that could have gotten twisted. This comes on the heels of 4 days ago, her trying to corner me into signing away 30% of my custody agreement, and refusing to let me even look at the details of the paperwork. I am so frazzled by all of this that, at times, I think about signing away my parental rights just to not have the stress. But I don't want my children thinking I don't care for them and abandoning them. How do you reason with this level of crazy? Any advice is welcome. I need help managing this. TLDR, trying to deal with a crazy ex, and barely holding it together for the sake of the kids. Relevant comments. Commenter, why are you so cowed by your ex-wife that her telling you to sign something you don't want to sign causes you stress? It shouldn't be that hard to say no. Oop. That is a brief snapshot. When it's every day, or every other day, it gets stressful. I never know what accusation is going to be lobbed at me next. When they divorced, 2 years ago. To a deleted comment, yeah. I already spent almost all of my savings to get the custody agreement I have. Dropping another $20,000 would be tough. To pay for I'd have to pick up another job, which would then not allow me to access the custody I am wanting. Commenter. Turn this over to your lawyer. Please fight this fight. I know it is hard, but can you imagine growing up with a mother who chooses to rewrite history and reality to suit her whims? Oop. Lawyers have been contacted. No response in 3 days, emailed with this craziness this morning. Still crickets. Commenter. Their mild to moderate bruising and scrapes, and the chunks of skin missing from their hands and fingers, are consistent with their reports of the accident and the dog bites. So do these things not exist or what? Oop, I didn't see anything. A scrape on the foot from the flip-flop one was wearing, but other than that, nothing. Commenter. How does Donna feel about all of this? Oop, pissed. It is a major source of conflict in our marriage. Actually, it is just about the only thing we ever argue about. Tangential post. Title: Legal rights surrounding a primary custody parent who after 4 attempts is not picking up her children from me, the non-custodial parent. California. I am in Southern California. I don't know what to do here. I am the non-custodial parent. I have had the kids for 1 week, 4 and 6, during Christmas break. Due to the high conflict nature of my ex, we have been assigned a co-parenting person to help mediate. On the 30th we were supposed to exchange the kids back to her care. I showed up 15 minutes early to the location, and we waited for 1 hour and 7 minutes before giving up and leaving. She had been claiming she was right there for over 35 minutes. The location was an IHOP, 300 feet from the freeway exit. After I left I got a slew of messages calling me all sorts of names and claiming that she had just shown up, but that I had left. This song and dance has happened before. She said she would meet me anywhere, just to let her know where. This time I called her bluff and picked a location 2 miles from my home, and told her, the kids are hungry and tired of waiting. I'm taking them to my house. When you arrive at the location, 11 miles from the IHOP, text me and let me know, and I'll bring them right over. I sent her the location 5 times in text and twice via email. 4.5 hours later. Nothing. I then told her that we could meet at the agreed upon location at 11 a.m., the next day for the exchange, just 1 day later than planned. When I woke up in the morning she demanded I drive them 1 hour to a new location, because she had a 103-degree fever and couldn't drive. There of course was a back and forth about her ability to care for children if she was too sick to drive. Ultimately she failed to arrive at the location at 11 a.m. At 5 p.m., I got a doctor's note stating that she only had a cold and was fine to care for the children. I didn't ask for this. I then called her and we had a heated back and forth, but ultimately I relented and told her that I would bring them to a location that she chose. 1 hour away and 1 mile from her house. Under the agreement that she would show up this time. Before leaving I sent an email confirming the location and time. That was sent at 7:48 p.m. We arrived at the location at 8:51 p.m. and texted to let her know we were there. What happened next was so frustrating. No response to any text was ever given. Every time I would send a text, I would get an email. All of them stating the same thing. That she would not leave her house until I verified my location. I sent her 6 different responses to emails telling her where I was. All I would get in response is more messages asking me to confirm my location. I even made a phone call telling her where I was. Unfortunately at this point I was in such disbelief I did yell at her and tell her to get her ass down here. Not my finest hour. At 10:21 p.m. With kids in high anxiety and crying that their mom had forgotten them again, we left and drove the hour back home. I have now messages accusing me of child abduction. I don't know what to do. I am not subjecting my kids to this again. I can't bear to watch them check every car and get excited. I think I see her over and over again for hours while she plays these games. My worry is that the cops are going to come knock down my door when I have done everything I can to make these exchanges work. Is this enough to have my lawyers file an emergency hearing to get primary custody? I am in limbo right now since neither my lawyers nor the co-parenting person will be in the office until the 3rd. TLDR mother has missed 4 exchanges in 2 days. What are my legal rights in this situation? Relevant comments. Commenter: why can't you just drop the kids off at her house if she's not feeling well enough to drive? It sounds like she's playing games and you're letting her. Oop. She has told me over and over again not to come to her house, under any circumstance. Commenter: was the mediator alerted to this situation when it was occurring? If not, why not? OP: she doesn't check her email or phone over the weekend. Commenter: keep the kids, stop dealing with her shit and file for full emergency custody this week. OP: she is now stating that she is 5 miles away, waiting for me to deliver the kids. This was not pre-arranged. Deleted post. Editor's note: thanks to mods for helping me recover this. Title: California. Not sure what my options are with a crazy ex-wife scenario. Literally, I am in the process of a 7:30 evaluation for primary custody of my kids. 2 kids 7 and 5 today, was another doozy of an exchange, and I am fearful for the kids. I don't know what my options are here, if any. My ex was 53 minutes late to the exchange today. At 4:24 she sent me a text stating she was exiting the freeway that is 2 miles from the meeting spot arranged in co-parenting for today. She doesn't show up until 4:53. Exchange goes okay. But I know something is coming, because if she is ever in the wrong she has to lash out and blame someone else or invent a scenario where she is the victim. I had to wait all of 4 minutes. I got a text stating, I just drove by your car, and the back seat was empty. Where are the kids? I said, wasn't my car, I have 2 kids? Then knowing where this was going, sent a picture of them in the car. Response. When did you have time to take this? Because I had plenty of time to look at the stoplight. You were alone. It's okay if Donna, my current wife, has them. It's totally legal, just weird to hide it. I then called her. She answered. I said, hi. She said hi, and then I asked the kids to say hi. I then asked the kids, where are we kids? At this point she started saying, hello, hello? Is there anyone there? I then got a text. Thank you for the phone call, but there was no sound. I responded. I am turning off my phone now. These accusations are bizarre. I got back. Not as bizarre as pretending to pick up our kids. Just tell me who has them. I called again. Immediately with the hello, hello? I knew for sure it was a game at this point. I just ended the call. She responded, you can't just keep ending conversations because you don't want to deal with the facts. If this turns into another 49-hour abduction like New Year's, I will definitely file a report. Read the last post on that incident here. This is next level insane. I am terrified for the kids. This is like raising to the level that she needs to be committed. Thoughts apart from just continuing with the psych eval I already have going? Relevant comment. OP. We went back to family court. Court ordered a psych evaluation. That process is about 6 months. We are 1 month into that. Deleted post 2. Okay, I want to give the timeline so people understand the full issue I am up against. Basically, my children were hidden from me for 55 hours during my parenting time. Their location and the whole situation. Well, I was lied to about the whole time. Been divorced 5 years. 30% custody exchange was to be on December 28th at 12 p.m. for my half of Christmas break. Timeline. December 26th, 4 p.m., get a picture of where they are spending Christmas, X and 2 kids 9 and 7, showing large snowfall and a message saying they are not sure when the snow plows will start. December 27th, 12 p.m. Another picture and message stating the same thing, except in the picture you can tell cars have left and come back from first picture. 6 p.m. I tell her, if you get out tonight, I'll come get the kids as planned, in court order, from your house. 12 p.m., December 28th, if you do not get out until the morning, do you want to just bring them by my house, on the way from where she is coming from? I get a thumbs up to that message. 8 p.m., I ask if she got out. No response. December 28th, 9 a.m. I ask for a status update so I know if I need to drive the hour to her house. No response. 10:20 a.m. I ask again for an update. No response. 11 a.m., I leave to drive the hour for exchange, not knowing info. 12 p.m. Exchange time. Arrive at house. Text that I have arrived. Her car is there. Her mom's car is not. She lives with her mom. I videotape the time on the vehicle, verbally notate the time and date. Show her car and the darkened house on the videotape. I assume she has driven up with her mom to where she is snowed in. 12:10 p.m., finally got a response saying they are still snowed in. No plows yet. 4 p.m. I offer that since my parents are driving down, and they have a large truck, they could swing by and get the kids on their way to my house tomorrow. No response until the next day. Note, I check all roads in the area. All are showing being open and flowing traffic. I even verify with live traffic cams from 1/2 mile from where she is that roads are cleared and cars are driving. I have screenshots of this and the video is timestamped. December 29th, 8 a.m. She declines this and says we should stick to orders. She also tells me her internet is out. December 29th, 11 a.m., I contacted the police about child abduction. I tell them the story. They say, here is an incident number, we are not going to open a case on this. Take it up with the court. At 4 p.m., I got a message saying, freeways are closing down for the night. Been driving every back road looking for entrances without frozen bridges or backed up with accidents. It's an hour wait every time I fill up. Everybody's sure it'll be better tomorrow. Signals are better at least. I respond by asking her to tell me when she leaves. Note: no freeways or highways are shut down. I check all state and local websites to verify. Even check Twitter and local live camera feeds. December 30th, 8 a.m., call my lawyers, tell them what is going on, send them all of the timeline, and they say they will reach out to her attorney. 1 p.m., they finally get in touch with her attorney and the response back is that she is leaving today, that she will message me when she does, and I can come and get the kids from her place. 2 p.m. I ask for an update from my ex. 4:45 p.m. Still having gotten no communication, I call my lawyers again. They call her lawyer, I finally got a response. I have left. That's all. At 6 p.m., get a message. I am home, you can come get them. 7 p.m. 55 hours past exchange. I get the kids and I ask them about the snow and being stuck. I was not trying to pry information or grill them, just casual light conversation. They tell me that they have been at home for 3 days. Since the night of the 27th, now I am asking some more pointed questions. I ask about what car they drove. They are kids, maybe the timeline is wrong. They say they were in their mom's car because grandma had to leave on Christmas Day to be back home, so they drove separately. They say that mom said I told her she could keep them for 2 more days. I am furious. It was all lies. I am contacting lawyers today. But what are my options here? I want to have a reasonable expectation walking into this. My stance right now is, I need action and need someone else to be as posed about this as I am, or I'll find a lawyer who is. But I do realize my emotions are elevated. Additional note, in the last 2 years I have filed a 730. Spent $12,000 on it. 2-year process. Basically it said I am the better parent, but that she might be improving, and that his suggestion would be to wait a year and do another 730, and if things haven't improved by then, it would be appropriate to swap me to primary custody. That report was produced in April this year. Update, I was looking in my profile and saw my post in this subreddit from 7 years ago, as my ex was causing so much chaos that I was doubting everything. I took everything to heart and implemented several things right away. I became a gray rock. And started documenting my ass off. I consulted my lawyers, and they said they advised several steps. The first of which was a 730 evaluation. This is an evaluation done by a psychologist. That process took a really long time as the 730th evaluator got very sick halfway through. That took 10 months. At the end the report essentially read, Mom is volatile and disorganized and that Dad's home would be a more stable home for the children. However, there is hope that Mom is starting to improve, so if things are still bad in 1 year it would be appropriate to change custody to Dad. This was a tough pill to swallow. Things were not better, and the chaos was just intermittent. So we just kept documenting and doing our thing. Eventually, we started getting a lot of emails from teachers that Jill in particular was often not bathed, never had her homework done, didn't have school supplies and that she was falling way behind in her studies. We applied for a trial to review custody, and asked for primary custody to be swapped to us. That was at the end of 2019, and trial was set for May 2020. So as you can imagine, once COVID hit, everything got delayed. There were a large number of events in 2020. COVID shut down. Donna and I had a child, Rebecca. And then my ex started denying visitation to Jill and Marvin. Every 2 weeks I would go down, wait in front of the house, no kids would emerge. Sometimes I would have the police come, not to force anything, but to get the documentation in terms of a case number. This went on for 4 months, before I was able to start getting visitation again. Eventually, the trial was set for summer of 2021 and went for 3 days and I had over 500 pages of documentation. Day 1 was entirely testimony from the co-parenting therapist we had been seeing for 5 years. She testified that my ex was the most difficult client she had ever worked with in her career, that my ex never followed a single agreement in session, and that she was a pathological liar. Last day of testimony was my ex, where she was caught lying on the stand, and was presented with evidence that she had been secretly taking the children to a medical professional for 2 years that I had explicitly not agreed to. So starting in August 2021, the judge ordered the kids to come live with me, primary custody and limiting my ex to 4 days a month. It's now been 3 years. When Jill was in 5th grade she had a 26% in math, and a 40% in English. For the last 3 years, she has maintained a 4.0 every single year, and will be starting high school in honors geometry, honors English and AP biology. Marvin has also been doing well also and just finished his first year of middle school with a 4.0 GPA, and is loving his coding and robotics elective. They have new clothes, and have learned new skills and responsibilities. Donna has been crucial in setting up patterns to help with success in school. Their rooms are both immaculate, and they are the ones doing it with very little direction from us. They are happy and finally involved in activities and sports. Our little Rebecca adores them both, and I will often find all 3 of them cuddled up together as one of the older 2 reads a book to her. Jill made the decision recently to stop going on visits to her mom. The chaos and drama started being directed at her. Along with lack of food, clothes that fit, etc. Marvin is still going for visits and we are encouraging that as long as he is feeling safe there. All in all things are going so well and the kids are doing incredible. There are hard moments still, But it has all been worth it, and we are able to shield them for the most part from any chaos their mom may want to start. If anyone is reading this, please send advice. Thank you. When you are in the thick of it, it is tough to not feel like it is impossible and you will never be able to overcome it. I needed the outside perspective. Too long. Didn't read. Update to a post about considering giving up custody of my kids, to fighting for them for years, eventually getting custody and turning all of our lives around for the better. Relevant comment. Commenter. Cheered when I heard both the kids got their grades up. You've set them on the right path, sir. Good work. Oop. Thanks. We knew they had the ability. It is amazing what can happen when kids have support with HW, and a routine to follow every day. Soon they start believing in themselves and then setting their own lofty goals. Jill has dreams of becoming an investigative journalist. Marvin would like to become a nuclear engineer. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. My pregnant wife became obsessed with the gym. I checked her phone and discovered explicit text with a guy from the gym. Original post. My wife is 30 years old and she's always worked out and been in shape, but lately I feel like it's becoming excessive. She used to regularly work out at a gym when she was in college. At some point she stopped going to the gym, I think lately just due to her schedule, and preferred to work out at home or go for runs outside. About 18 months ago she announced she was going to get back into the habit of going to the gym. She now has a job where she's able to make more time for it. It started off normal, but slowly became more and more frequent. She signed up for classes on the weekend, both days. She started going to the gym every day, then it became the morning before work and then again later in the evening, every single day. If she's stressed, she goes to the gym. Experience some sort of life crisis, she immediately heads to the gym. We have an argument, run to the gym. She's 4 months pregnant right now. I'm kind of surprised we even had time to make a kid. I understand that it's safe for her to work out, especially since she was already in the habit of doing it before she got pregnant, but the intensity is not slowing down. If she misses one of her normal gym sessions she becomes so irritable, like a junkie not getting her fix. It's just bizarre. Truly a case of too much of a good thing. Of course she gets upset when I voice that I feel it's becoming an unhealthy obsession and that I miss spending time with her because she's there so much. She has all of these friends and this whole circle of people there that she seems to prefer spending time with over me. Why don't we work out together at the gym? The gym is her time, she says. This isn't a case of me feeling insecure because she's in great physical shape and I'm a fat slob. I work out and am in shape. My job really requires me to stay in shape so I can't let myself go if I want to. I genuinely feel her gym habits are unhealthy. She's over-exercising, for one. There is such a thing. But worse than that, I feel it's becoming a way for her to escape everything else in her life. She never actually fixed anything that goes wrong in her life. She just runs off to the gym to get some sort of mood boost and then that's it. She also never gets anything else done in a practical sense because how can she when she's at the gym so often? It's to the point where I have to do every chore and if food is getting made I'm going to have to do it. I don't expect her to do all of those things, but it should at least be a shared effort. People we know have even commented about it to me. They've said things about how she seems different, how she sure is at the gym a lot, and many of her friends and family barely see her anymore. Some have even suggested she's having an affair with somebody there. Please tell me that this doesn't sound normal to you. She insists this is perfectly normal. Update 1. I posted not very long ago about my wife's addiction to the gym. A compulsion, if you will. She spends most of her free time there. She often goes twice a day, and sometimes even 3 times if we have a fight at night and she needs to run off instead of actually talking to me. She won't let me go to her gym and she refuses to go to mine. Her gym is her place, my gym is my place, and that's just the way it has to be according to her. I'd love to have her come along with me. I've invited her multiple times. She's about 18 weeks pregnant right now. This is our first baby. She worked out like crazy prior to the pregnancy, and she continues to work just as hard now. I truly didn't think she was cheating on me. People suggested it in the last thread and I laughed. You can tell she's at the gym a lot, she's in great shape. So she's obviously going there. I felt really confident about the cheating issue and when I posted 9 days ago I wasn't even considering cheating. I'm embarrassed to admit that after reading a lot of the comments on my last post, I thought maybe I was being overly confident about her fidelity. She usually always has her phone on her, but she left it on the kitchen counter and as stupid as I felt, I decided to do a quick swipe through her texts. She had a current text conversation going on with a guy. I recognized the name. The same name of a guy from the gym she mentions a lot. She's friends with a lot of people there, and went to one of their weddings last fall. I wasn't too terribly concerned until I started reading the texts. Never wanted to know what the guy's dick looked like, but I know now. She was only out of the room for literally about a minute or two, so I had to scroll fast. I was furious. I asked her what the fuck that conversation was about. She started yelling at me for looking at her phone. I told her she's acting so weird and the gym obsession was really bothering me, so I just decided to look, and was ashamed that I did, but I thought I'd find nothing at all. She said, "It's nothing. It's nothing. Didn't look like anything to me." She sure seemed pretty interested in this nothing. I wanted to know if she's been fucking him. For how long? She kept saying no. I left the house because I was so furious, but not before I slammed her phone on the ground and shattered it. She was calling me all sorts of names for breaking her phone. She hit me on the back as hard as she could. I left. Went to my brother's house. My brother and sister-in-law were shocked, although my sister-in-law was one of the most vocal ones about my wife's gym obsession being weird and bringing it up to me constantly. I went home. She was in bed crying. She obviously couldn't call me or anyone else for that matter. She was laying it on thick, "I don't know if you'd ever come home. Give me a break." I took her phone to get repaired tonight. She doesn't deserve it, but I still feel like an ass breaking her phone. I still don't know how deep it goes. She won't admit to anything beyond what I saw. Was it sexting, bad enough, or more? I'm convinced it was a lot more, but she refuses to hand over her phone and is now trying to act like I'm this terrible monster who is abusing her because I broke her phone. Not my proudest moment, but I honestly wanted to body slam her after she punched me. I have never and would never actually touch her like that. Update 2. My wife admitted to an affair. Not sure if posting something in my profile will be seen by anyone, but I don't feel like making another update in a subreddit. Today my wife asked me to stay home from work so we could talk. She laid in bed all day yesterday trying to make me feel sorry for her, but I paid absolutely no attention to her and ended up leaving the house to go to my family's Super Bowl party. I wasn't in the mood to go, but I wasn't going to sit at home with her. It really bothered her that I left. She kept texting me things like, "Who just leaves like that? When something like this is happening, who is that cold and callous that they just leave to go to a party?" I stayed home today to talk to her. She was full of tears. She's so sorry. According to her, she really was going to the gym twice a day because she likes going there. That's where her friends are, makes her feel good, it's fun for her. She met this guy there and he started flirting with her. Everyone likes him? He's one of the most popular guys there. I didn't realize there were popular people at gyms. She admitted that she flirted back but didn't mean anything by it. She didn't reciprocate very much at first, but he gave her butterflies. And she just found herself flirting back without thinking. She said it felt like she had a crush on somebody when she was in school when she was younger. They started texting. At first it was just friendly and nothing sexual for several months, but she'd feel giddy every time she got a message from him. She was really attracted to him, but told him that she was married and there could never actually be anything between them. According to her, he kept flirting with her anyway and said, "Sure, we won't cross the line." Until they did cross the line. She said she had tried to resist it for a while, but then one day they kissed. She admitted to enjoying it but also feeling that it was wrong. She must not have felt that bad because she slept with him for the first time later that night. She described it like falling in love with somebody for the first time. All she could think about was him. Is she in love with him? She doesn't know. Is this baby mine? She thinks so, but there's always a small chance it could be his. He always uses a condom so she doesn't think it's his baby, but they were sleeping together at the time she got pregnant. She loves me. She can't help that there's just this huge spark between the two of them. She doesn't know if she loves him. She doesn't know if the baby is mine. She doesn't know why she did this. She doesn't know what she thinks we should do. The nail in the coffin is when she said, "You would really leave me if it's not your baby, would you?" She had the balls to ask me that. I told her of course I'm leaving her and I wouldn't raise another man's child. She seemed shocked. She said, "Really? With everything we have and all our history, you wouldn't even consider it?" She can't be serious. I told her no, I would never consider it. She agreed to get a DNA test. She tearfully agreed, like I'm supposed to feel sorry for her about it. I don't know who this woman is. She was crying the whole time, but not tears of an ashamed or sorry person. They were tears for herself and meant to try to make me feel bad. Feel bad for what? That her heart is apparently so torn? Relevant comments, additional information. Oop. She's ruined my life, but I just feel numb right now. I barely feel anything at the moment. It would have been bad enough for her to have an affair and cheat on me. But she couldn't have stopped when she found out she was pregnant. At least I could have walked away if it wasn't for this pregnancy. Maybe I still can, but I won't know for sure until I get some test results. She's almost positive the baby is mine. I'm stuck dealing with her forever then. My child will grow up with divorced parents. Their mom will be on the gym bike. Maybe she'll even take off to live near her family and take my kid with her. Oh, but then she couldn't be near the guy who gives her butterflies and fucks her in gym changing rooms. The thrill, the excitement, how can I even blame her? She's ruined fatherhood for me, whether this is my kid or not. If by some chance this isn't my baby and I'm able to completely break free, how will I not think of this one day when I start a family? I was so fucking happy to have this baby with her. I was really excited, even though we hadn't planned for it right now. We have names picked out. I've been there for everything and now she does this to me. Not only me, but this poor kid regardless of who their father is. Oop. She's saying, I'll never go back to the gym again, I'll never talk to him again. But she can't say whether she's in love with him or not? What kind of idiot does she think I am? Comment. She still thinks there is hope to save your relationship. Jesus Christ. Oop. Yeah, I believe she still thinks there's a chance I'll agree to raise another man's child with her. She doesn't take me seriously when I say there's no way I'd do that. She is dependent on me. She probably wouldn't leave me if I knocked somebody else up and wanted her to play mommy. I know that sounds terrible and it's nothing I'd ever do, but I feel like she'd be mad and she'd go screw somebody else to get back at me, but she probably would be too scared to actually leave me. I don't feel the same way about leaving her. I'm sad to leave her. I don't want this to be our reality. I can't even say that I completely hate her yet. But I won't raise another man's child. If she feels so strongly about that guy and he's so wonderful, go get together with him then and leave everyone else alone. She was practically on her knees yesterday saying, I won't go back to the gym, I won't ever contact him again. I feel like that doesn't really mesh with the fact that she doesn't even know if she's in love with him or not. She obviously still has very strong feelings for him, which are probably coming more from between her legs than her actual heart, but doesn't really matter either way to me. I think despite anything to do with him, she's dependent on me in a way. For stability, maybe. Just out of comfort, maybe. We've been together since she was 20 years old, so I'm just this familiar person, I guess. She has her gym friends out here, but other than that she has no family or friends out here. She makes pretty good money, but I make more and all of our benefits are through me. Even with her good salary, it would be difficult to survive on her own as a single mom here with all of the daily living expenses, or at least live anywhere near the level she wants to live at. Today is the day she was crying all night about how she's ruined her life. She seemed genuine, like reality is hitting her, but I didn't pay any attention to her at all. I just pretended she wasn't there. I did ask her if she'll get blood drawn for a paternity test. I asked her to please not hurt me further by keeping me in limbo about that for months. She said she doesn't want to. OP on if he got a lawyer and if he ever met the AP. I'm meeting with a lawyer next week and we'll see what they advise. How can she parade me around when I've never been allowed to go to her gym? I've met two of the people, a slightly older married couple. Yes, I met the affair partner. Last summer he called her because he was drunk at a bar and couldn't drive home, so he called her to come get him. I didn't think it was a good idea for her to go pick somebody up late at night, so I went with her. I want her out of the house, but I don't necessarily want her to fly back home to where she's from just yet. If this is my kid and she gives birth out here, I'll be in a much better position. If she leaves and goes home to her parents, she could very well be allowed to stay there and that would be considered the baby's place of residence. She missed a few days of work, but she has gone to work since all of this happened. She was having a meltdown this morning and I left for work. She told me had to go in late today, and when she got there everybody was making her food and tea and stuff. She obviously didn't tell them what really happened, how long the affair was happening. She claims they've been sleeping together since the summer. That's just what she claims, of course. My wife is moving in with her affair partner. They're in love February 22, 2024. My life has been reduced to a trashy daytime talk show. The woman who was once my wife, who I considered a classy woman, has turned into complete trailer trash. Today she announced that she's moving in with her affair partner from the gym. She's pregnant, might be his kid, might be mine. She's too embarrassed to go get blood drawn for a paternity test. She spent about a week trying to get my attention, to get me to talk to her, to get me to beg her to be mine. I didn't fall for any of it. I've largely been ignoring her, and when we have to speak I keep it very brief. We've been living together this whole time, but I'm in a different room now and functioning separate from her in all ways. So, her pouting and trying to get me to pay attention to her and give her a gold star for not going to the gym for 5 days in a row didn't work. Today she texted me to say she is moving in with him. Somehow I still care about this person. I've already met with a lawyer though. I can care about her as a human being and possible mother of my child without being married to her. Still, it stung to hear her say she was going to be with him. I told her it wasn't a smart move to leave the house. I've even told her she should probably meet with a lawyer. She doesn't care about anything I have to say. I don't think she needs to move in with anybody. I actually feel bad for her that she can't just be on her own. I asked her if he actually knew she was pregnant and wanted to know what story she's been telling him this whole time. She said he knows and he doesn't care if it's my baby, he loves her and wants to be with her. Bizarre. You can't find anyone else? Somebody who isn't a married pregnant woman? Why would you take that on? Doesn't make sense to me. He's scum, but he's a good-looking scum who apparently is gainfully employed and owns his own home, so you can't tell me that my married, pregnant wife is your only option here. I just can't imagine being a single guy like that and wanting to put up with this baggage when I could have other options. And if this really is my baby, then what? They'll live with my wife and this weasel 50% of the time? I don't know how my life turned into this mess. And she thinks it's embarrassing to have to go get blood drawn? My wife has agreed to a paternity test February 29, 2024. My wife moved in with her AP last weekend. She didn't take very much at all. Most of her stuff is still in our house. I still get the feeling she was just waiting for me to beg her to come home, but I didn't reach out to her at all after she left. It was a strange mixture of relief, anger, and sadness. I don't think I ate at all until last night, just never felt hungry. Drank a little too much. But I'm fine. I'm posting this update because I've received a ton of messages from people and honestly it's emotionally draining to respond to each one and to have to type the same stuff out. I just don't feel like talking about her that much. So this morning she texted me to say her affair partner wants to get a DNA test done, so she's going to do it. Look at that. It didn't matter when I wanted one, but now that he has requested it she suddenly thinks it's a great idea. She asked if I wanted to submit a sample because it'll be cheaper to have two dads tested as part of one package. I don't even care about the cost at this point, I just want an answer. I don't have to see or interact with them at all. I just have to make my own appointment with the lab to get my cheek swabbed. So this Saturday I'm going to do that and we should have the results within a week. I'll take what I can get at this point because it's better than her dragging this out for another 20 weeks. So that's it. I'm fine. I'm going to work every day. Trying to function. Just feel stuck in limbo. I miss her. Honestly, I hate that she's there with him. It makes me sick. Part of me does want to beg her to come home. It'll be even worse if I find out that it's my baby and she's there with him. Unless he drops her at that news. I won't let myself beg her. I won't play any of those games with her. Relevant comments updates. Comment 1. Have you gotten the paternity test results? Oop. At 11 o'clock this morning I got the news that I'm the father. I feel incredibly conflicted right now. Comment 2. Est-elle demandant de revenir à la maison? Or is she still planning on staying with the other guy? Regardless, this is a rough situation. I'm sorry for you, bro. Ope. We haven't talked. Comment 3. Understandable, but I think that you should try and set up a meeting with her somewhere public to discuss the pregnancy and the future in general with her. Whether or not your marriage is going to end, the kid is still going to be a big part of your lives, so it would be best to see where both of you stand in that regard. Also, I recall you saying earlier that you think that your wife would listen to what her affair partner would say to her, or something similar to that. So now that it's not his kid, I would be concerned about him pressuring her into getting an abortion. So I think you really should talk to your wife about your unborn child and whatnot. OP. We definitely need to talk, but I got the news in the middle of a workday, so I wasn't in the mood to have a full-blown conversation with her. I think I need to sort of wrap my head around the reality of it all before I say too much to her anyway. Update 3. My wife has been having an affair with a guy she met at the gym for at least nearly a year. She's around 22 weeks pregnant right now. She was somewhere around 17 weeks when I discovered she was cheating. She maintained that she was positive I was the father, but then refused to get a paternity test done to ease my mind. We recently had a paternity test done, at the request of her affair partner, and it proves the baby is mine. It's been very mixed emotions for me, very up and down. Originally I thought I just wanted to be completely done with her and not have any lifelong ties in the form of a full-blown human being we shared, but I was sort of happy or relieved when I got the results. I'd already had it in my mind that I was going to be a father for months before I found out she was cheating. Sometimes I just have moments where I can't believe this is my life, that this is the situation that my kid will be born into, and I hate her for it. She's still living with him. All of her belongings are still here in our house. I refuse to do the work of packing everything up for her. She doesn't seem concerned about taking any of her things, beyond the essentials. After we got the news that I'm the baby's father, She texted me to say she's glad I'm the father and that she knows I'll be a great dad. She was texting me new baby name ideas last night. She's tried calling but I ignore the calls. I only speak with her via text. This morning she asked if she could come by and get a few things. I told her it was fine, as I've been advised by my lawyer to not prevent her entry from the home, but I told her that he better not be with her. So who shows up with her? The scumbag boyfriend. He walks right on into the house behind her like it's no big deal. She ran upstairs to get the stuff she wanted and he and I were just left standing there in the living room. He told me it wasn't her fault that he was there. She told him I didn't want to come but he forced his way along. He wanted to talk to me, supposedly, to tell me he understands how I must be feeling. No, you don't know. He told me he knows I probably don't believe him, but he genuinely loves her and knew he probably wasn't the father. He accepts it and then tries to assure me he won't try to take my place with the baby and hopes we can just get along since we're both going to be in her life now. He promises that she's fine, he's looking after her. I told him that I couldn't for the life of me imagine what he wanted with a pregnant woman who was having another man's child, which I found weird. Then I told him if he didn't get out of my house I'd punch him. I went upstairs and she was trying to find some things in the bathroom. I got mad, asked her why she brought him along, and told her I find it really strange that he still wants to be with her now that he knows he has nothing to do with this baby. And that I refuse to let him have anything to do with my child. She said he talked her into coming and she's sorry and never meant for any of this to happen but she's in love with him now. He is supposedly what a 30-year-old girl is looking for, not me. She's setting up a nursery in his house and I can set one up at my house and she has no intention of trying to get full custody or anything like that. She doesn't want to keep me from being involved in my child's life. How generous of her. She went back downstairs and I followed her and he was still standing there in the living room and I just walked up to him and punched him. He stumped back and fell into a table. She yelled, "What the fuck?" and ran over to him. I don't even care at this point. As if he's going to call the cops. He deserved it and it wouldn't have happened had he just left like I told him to. Several hours later she texted me to say she was sorry about today. He really meant what he said and he's actually a good guy and he cares about her and he respects me. What the fuck? Does he respect me? He was screwing my wife in the gym locker room. I was like, you can't be serious. She said fine. I'm trying to have a mature conversation about this. I can't help that we fell in love. Believe it or not, I'm not trying to hurt you and I want everything to be amicable. This guy stole my wife and he's stealing my kid too. Sure, I'm the actual father but now they're setting up a nursery together in his house. I've tried to not feel jealous or sad. I've tried to maintain the thought that he's the trash man who picked up my garbage. Sometimes I feel that way, but the truth is that I loved her, and still love her. I don't want to stay married to her on principle alone, but this is devastating to me. Update 4. Another installment of the implosion which is my marriage April 10, 2024. My wife is basically 26 weeks pregnant now. There actually hasn't been much drama with her and her AP. I was away for a long weekend last week and it was nice to just get away from home for a while. Only really annoying thing that's happened is that I told her I'm being in the delivery room, not him. After everything she's done, she owes me that. It's not his baby. He has no right or reason to be there. I will not be the one waiting outside when my kid is being born. She said yes, she agreed and she never planned to have him in there with her. I asked her if she'd told him that and she said no. I told her to tell him he'll have no part in it. Well, she told him and apparently he didn't like that and he started trying to convince her why he should be there. Next thing I know she's telling me that he really wants to be there and she's the one giving birth so she should be able to say who she wants there and she wants him there. I suppose he'll start making name suggestions soon, and we'll try to overrule names we've had picked out for our future kids for years. We've talked a little bit and she told me I can have our house and the dog in our divorce. I'm requesting that we sell the house and split the profit. I already wrote that in the paperwork. I'm not buying her out of our house, a house that I've made all the payments on anyway. I have a much better credit score than her and less debt. I compromised a lot because she liked this house. I'd rather be able to get my own place based just on what I want and with no reminders of her. And there was already no way she was getting the dog. I already had proof that I owned him though, so she wouldn't really stand a chance of having a court award the dog to her. It's the one thing I told my lawyer I wanted above everything else, not including any custody issues surrounding my actual human child. Honestly, her AP can have her, but he will never ever have my dog. Not to mention my dog is 100 times more loyal than my wife and some might even say better looking too. So with the idea I won't be living here in this house for much longer after the baby is born, if everything moves quickly, I decided I will still prepare a nursery here anyway in case anyone wants to try to accuse me of not being invested prepared for fatherhood. I'm trying to look at the positives. It doesn't matter what colors she likes or what themes. I can do whatever I want. Honestly, we've been together for so long and have lived together for most of our adult lives. It's sort of nice not living with somebody but sort of lonely too. I have friends and family, but it's hard to feel in the mood to go out or hang out with people too often. They always ask me about everything that's going on and it's just like I'm tired of that being the topic of conversation. I got a promotion at work, which financially would have been better had it happened after the divorce, but I'll take what I can get. I feel like I'm living in this limbo right now and a lot of what I do is always framed around, how will this affect me in the divorce? Admittedly, I spy on them on social media sometimes. Guess I'm hoping to see he's been in a motorcycle accident or something now that the weather is nicer. Hasn't happened yet, but he's starting a new company and once that's up and running I can always get all my friends and family to leave 1-star reviews everywhere. Have to find ways to have a little fun. Sorry that I don't respond to a lot of messages or comments. Sometimes I just take big breaks from looking at Reddit since it can be depressing AF. Editing to add something I forgot. She told her family that we've split up and that she's with this other guy now. Her sister reached out to me to say how sorry she was, her sister is a dumbass, that sort of thing. She told me that my wife was complaining about her AP. The sex is over when he's done and apparently he's really selfish with sex. He doesn't do extra little things for her that she's used to me doing, like clearing the snow off her car in the morning and heating it up or offering to make her food after a long day. He doesn't speak her love language, and he hangs out with his friends too much. This made me so happy to hear. She's secretly miserable and I find that absolutely delightful. This is a repost sub. I am not the oop. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.